Uh, let's hope it's working now. Let me check on my end. Let me try one thing, guys. Give me one sec. Let's see. let's see. Is there any audio now? Alright, guys, I might need to stop the stream and come back. Let me try this one more time. Alright, let me try this one more time, folks. Uh-oh. Apparently it was working right before I signed off, but let's see if it will work now. Give me one sec, guys. I just want to make sure that it's working. Uh-oh. Apparently it was working. Oh, okay. Sound is coming through. Alrighty, sound is coming through and right in time because our guest has arrived. So, if you guys did not hear me before, thank you so much for tuning in to the Changing Tides podcast. We are live on location here at the UPRISERS Family Drive. I'm sorry to the few people who were listening live and the audio was not coming through. I was talking for like 5-10 minutes without any audio coming through. But with that said, I'm really excited to get this started, get it kicked off, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest. So, I've been able to meet this man twice now. Once at the Family Drive's kickoff dinner, where I got to meet some of the amazing creators and artists that are here on site. And we have really great volunteers that are kind of assisting him and getting him prepped up for all of this. But we are ready to go. So I'm going to keep my phone on me. So if anyone, I keep checking my phone. Um, my girlfriend Lauren is telling me it's been working the whole time, but for some reason I tried and it wasn't working out. But we were able to bring on our first guest. I'm going to go ahead and signal our team. All right, here we go. We have our first guest coming in, and I'm really excited for you all to hear from him. Yo,
What's up?
what's up?
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good
Thanks
to
so
see
much
you.
for being a part of
Yeah,
this,
no
man.
problem. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Where do you want me to see
You can sit right here. You can make sure you look okay. You have the display right here.
Fire.
Yeah, but so I'm not gonna do too much. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. So
Okay.
I'll let you take the floor.
Awesome. My name is Rakeem Miles. I'm a designer, musician. I write films as well. Have a little animated TV show coming pretty soon. Um, and yeah, that's kind of the basis of like what I am.
For sure,
What I
but
do.
I don't want to. I want to make sure people can find you because I know a
Mhm.
lot of people are coming from the Uprisers side, but a lot of people are coming from the Changing Tide side too.
Mhm.
Do you want us to link Action Figure Miles? Is that the best one for us to
Yep.
link? You think? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop that in the chat for people to go ahead and check you out and while they
Awesome.
listen along. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna fill this time. I'm gonna make sure we get to cover your story, but I really
Okay.
want to ask everyone just a couple of questions to kind of kick things off. And I think
Okay.
the first thing I want to ask, because of what brings us here today, is what does the family drive mean to you?
100%. For me personally, um, the giving back aspect of what Uprisers is actually doing is very close to you know what I have going on also with my brand, and also coming from social services where man I've been around so many people that go through social services, come out with no support, no
Mm,
nothing, um, end up not financially stable, end up just not being in the position to really like fully take care of themselves. And there's not that much of a support system. Also, there's homelessness. There's so many different things that people are dealing with where they get into a situation where they definitely need the support. And I really appreciate what Uprisers is doing since they're giving the support to people that really need it right now, you know?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just aren't doing that. People aren't even thinking about that half the time. So yeah, I just really appreciate the movement and what Uprisers like stands for. So I want to be a part of that 100%.
So
Yeah.
what besides being a part of the podcast today, like what's your involvement with the movement that we're making today?
So for me, personally, I'm here talking to you to talk about my struggles, and I want to basically put everything on the table as far as what I've dealt with. Hopefully that resonates with the people on the stream as well. But I think all of this is community based. You know what I mean? Everybody here is bringing something different to the table, just like the podcast to what's going on with giving back to people that are not less fortunate. So what I feel like I'm bringing to the table is being able to bring my story in a completely different, I guess you could say, a different narrative for people to, also connect with if they also been through the same exact thing I've been through.
So that
Yeah.
it feels like you're natural with the interviews. I mean, you've done them
Yeah.
before, but you led right into the next question, which is, when would you say your mental health journey really began?
Shoot, since I was a little kid. For me personally, it's like I've been in alternative schools since a little kid. Like little, I was on Ritalin, I was on Adderall, I was on all those different medicines to try to like stimulate me and kind of put me in a place where I felt like it was pretty messed up to be on all those different medicines because also like your body starts to tremor too and you're like shaking and stuff.
Do you mind if I
And
ask real quick,
mm,
what age did you start?
I started that like, man, I was taking medicine in like first grade. So
Really?
like what is that, like 5, 6 or
Yeah.
7, something like that? Yeah, I was taking medicine since I was like a little kid
Mm.
because it started out, they're like, oh, I got ADHD, oh, I have depression, I have this, I have that. I never knew what mental health was until like I would say 2018, 2017,
Mm.
when I started hearing, oh, this is mental health or
Mhm.
mental health and wellness. Um, I just always was like, shit, I just got some shit going on, and I gotta try to like navigate through it. But my whole life, I literally was in alternative schools. I couldn't stand I couldn't stay in like public schools, so I went to like 14 different schools
Oh wow.
because I wasn't able to manage my anger, wasn't able to manage like being in the class. I always had to like get up and just go outside the class, and I was just constantly getting kicked out,
Mm.
constantly getting in fights, constantly being defiant. Um, so there was a lot of struggles that I was dealing with. Also, my mom being on drugs,
Mm.
my dad having mental issues where he couldn't take care of me either. Like he literally is just like he's not 100% there. And there's some things that had happened to him that put him in that place. But like both of those things, with a kid going to social services and dealing with social services and kind of like being in that space, you get put in to I feel like it does something to somebody at a young age
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't grow. I'm not growing up with my actual mom
Mm-hmm.
or my actual dad, like my biological parents, and I'm going through these different systems. I'm going and talking to these different like therapists, and you know, it's all very weird, and I feel like that had a lot of like a huge effect on me growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and my grandparents definitely, man, they could have been let me go a long time ago because I was getting in so much trouble. They were going back and forth to the schools trying to help me out, trying to make sure I was good, and I just struggled mentally throughout
Mm-hmm.
school. All the way to the time I graduated. I graduated from an alternative school. Alternative schools, people don't know. Sometimes it's kind of messed up because you get in trouble, right? Let's say you get in trouble in class. They actually take you out, they put you in a quiet room, and they close the door. They take your shoes off, laces, everything.
Really?
Yeah. So it's actually like it's kind of like it's like almost like jail type, like
Mm.
kind of. I was on when I was in Maryland. It was another school I was at where they would put you. The school was actually in the middle of this like field, but it was like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was only there for the school hours. You know what I mean? Like per day. But it just felt like jail. And sometimes I just couldn't take it. I tried to run one time.
Mm.
They ran me
In the
down,
middle of nowhere.
slammed me. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Like it would have. It was literally like farm area. It's like
Yeah.
you know, like that type of area. I tried to run to get out of there, and they stopped me and threw me down, and then put me into one of those rooms or whatever.
Mm.
And yeah, I just struggled with that shit for years, man. And that's why I talk about it today because I actually experienced it. You know, I experienced going through mental health struggles. My dad had it. You know what I mean? I had the medicine that was supposed to take care of, you know, what I was dealing with, and that I don't personally feel like that really helps at all.
Mm.
Um, you know, so I feel like I could sit here today and talk about my experiences because those are things that really, really were a part of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's so much, 40 minutes doesn't may sound like a lot of time to a lot of people, but with a story like yours, it's
No,
hard
it's
to
not.
fill
I
it
got a
all
lot.
into
I
40
got a lot
minutes.
to talk about for sure.
But I want to focus on a few things, and one thing
Mhm.
that I latch onto is, you're a kid.
Mhm.
At that time, your idea of what's normal
Mhm.
is shaped at that time. How much of this did you know this wasn't normal, or was this like, oh, this is what every kid goes through?
Um, I knew it wasn't normal when I was doing visitations,
Mm.
and like, there's a person that pops up like your caregiver.
Uh,
I think no, not your caregiver. Whatever the people that come pick you up and like take you to visit your mom for visitation and
mm.
stuff, and then you're like there for like a few hours and you leave, and it's like, huh, it's kind of weird. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because you would think that like you go to hang with your mom, you wouldn't think that you would have like, you know, this person that's kind of in between,
Oh yeah.
you know, watching for the next few hours, and then that person takes you back home to your whatever family you know you're with. And that was my grandparents. You know, going to group homes because there was times like where if my grandparents were, you know, they wanted to leave, they would put me into this like a group home if they wanted to go get like a vacation and get like some time away from me.
Mm.
So I would go to a group home, hang at the group homes, and like that shit was the worst. I seen some wild stuff. I actually seen the um the adults at the group home, the guys, the people that were actually managing the whole thing, literally punched this kid right in his nose, broke his
Really?
nose straight up. Yeah,
How old were
and he was just bleeding
how old
like
were their
crazy.
kids? I mean, I'm sure it was a wide range, but
He was like 13,
oh my
13, 14
gosh.
years old.
I mean,
Yeah,
not that it changes anything
yeah,
if they're
no, it's
older or
crazy.
younger, but it's like, I
Yeah,
think I think I think it's one thing to hear the story, but I think as much context as there is, like
hmm
the more context, the more like someone could picture how evil that type of stuff is.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Especially when it's just a bunch of random kids from different families, and they're all in this place, and none of them are like adopted or anything.
Mm.
You're just in there with like these two random people, or like a few random like adults or whatever. And yeah, it was weird, you know, because I was only like 7 or 8 at the time, and I would go to sleep, and like them big ass one, like those big, you know, dudes, they would pull up and try to like actually fight. Let me turn this off. They would actually try to like fight with me,
Oh,
you know.
really?
Yeah.
Because were you a bigger kid at the time or something?
No, I was only like 7 or 8 years
Oh,
old.
so they were just.
Yeah, so they were like 13, 14 years old. They were a lot older than me.
Oh, okay.
And I think that was kind of the reason that the guy actually, you know, punched the kid in the nose. Because he was like, you can't keep messing with him. He's younger than you, this and that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they would try to fight with me and everything,
Wow.
you know? Like straight up fist fight. And that's where, like, for me, that's how I learned to deal with a lot of, like, what I was dealing with as far as, like, my anger and stuff, and to get past certain things, or to basically just kind of, I guess you can say, resolve a situation was fighting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I just learned that throughout my life. That's just kind of how I felt like you resolve a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Until I got older, and when I was in public school, because my grandmother did something to get me back into public school. I don't know, I forget what she did. She acted like I was, she put me in a charter school.
Oh, okay.
And when I got into charter school, it made the system think that I was back in like I was able to go back to public schools after the charter school.
Got it.
Because it almost cleaned my record, because they're only going to look at the last school you were at.
Hmm.
Yeah. So they didn't see that I was like alternative school, and I didn't want to go to alternative schools anymore. I wanted to go back to public. So going to the charter helped me because that was the last thing on the resume of what school I went to. And then I got back into public, and then yeah, shit just kind of went haywire again. Kept getting in trouble. Kept things kept just kind of going down.
So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, with the nature of a group home, there's a lot of
Mhm.
kids going through similar experiences.
Yeah.
But, you're using your story and your platform to tell this story and to
Yeah.
maybe help a kid that's in the same position or people have been through similar situations as you. So, like, what inspired you to tell your story? Because you could have kept it hidden. You didn't need to put
Yeah.
yourself out there the way you did.
Honestly, it's like so it's already in the music, and it naturally came out of me in the music.
Mm.
It wasn't like something where I was like I thought it out and I was like, oh yeah, I wanna do this. It was just kind of a thing where it naturally was something I was already talking about because how I can't just make music unless I have an emotional attachment to the song.
Got it.
Like I actually literally won't even write music unless I like 100% feel it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only reason I write music in the first place.
Mm.
Is only because like I just literally use music to help me feel better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Help me get what I have going on, whatever's in my head and whatever I need to get out, I put it out into the music.
Mm.
So I can't really it's hard for me to do, writing for other people and all the other stuff or have somebody write for me or anything cuz it's like I have to feel the energy. I have
Yeah.
to like really feel what I'm saying. Everything has to really be emotion. I have to be emotionally attached to that project.
Got it.
So I started to realize like, hey, this is already a message I've been pushing for all these years since 2011 when I put out my first project. Put out my album Depression. Then I put out Adderall. Then I had put out Do They Really Love You?
Mm.
And it has my mom on the front, holding me. Because what my grandmother holding me on the album cover. Because my grandmother used to go pick me up in Baltimore and give my mom like $5 to $10 to give me, to her. But basically, she wouldn't give me up until the money was given to her because she wanted to go buy drugs.
Oh, wow.
So if she was given like $5 or $10, it's like, oh, here,
Wow.
take them. You know what I mean? So I had that album cover on there. So later on, I could tell that story, because people probably don't even know that. But throughout the whole project, I tell my, story, and that's why I said, "Do they really love you?"
Mm.
Because it's like, did she really, love me? And then even in my daily life, like now, it's like, do certain people actually love you? Because
Right.
there's a lot of fake stuff that goes on. A lot of people that act like they got your back, they don't have your back. So that was kind of a representation of that, you know. But yeah, that's what really the music is really what got me to be more outspoken about what I was, what I'm dealing with. Because I know it'll resonate with people. People have always told me like these projects that I put out over the years, including also the Action Figure Miles project that I put out in 2019. They said it resonated with them in a way where it helped them get through what they were dealing with. So I was like, okay, I'm already naturally doing this because it's just like organically I'm just making this music
Right.
and it's just how everything happened to come out
Mm.
and people like it and it resonates with them and it's helping them. Why not talk about it more and actually be somebody that can just show them like, yo, I'm dealing with the same thing. Because if I act like I've never dealt with anything, everybody's just gonna think that, I just got it easy.
Right.
You know what I mean? As well. So I think it's important to tell your story. It's important because there's other people trying to do the same thing you're doing, and if you don't give them the keys, they'll never know how to unlock the doors. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you're almost holding back a lot of information and resources
Yeah.
because it's like you didn't even tell anybody, oh, I went through this and that, and then they're like, oh shit, I thought I couldn't get through because I've been through these different things, and I thought these hurdles were gonna stop me from even getting, becoming successful. So
Right.
yeah, that's the reason though.
So you led right into it with Action Figure Miles because, I mean, someone could look at the brand. It's like, oh, these are cool designs.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you look at your website or your Instagram. Like there's a meaning behind it. So what's the meaning behind Action Figure Miles?
So the meaning behind Action Figure Miles, as a kid, I grew up with action figures, animation, a lot of stuff that I really liked as a kid. I used to cope with what I was dealing with emotionally. Not having a mom in my life, or having that father figure in my life to really help me out and give me advice when I need it and shit like that. It was kind of one of those things where I just felt, you know, this character is really a part of me. The hero, like actual cape, represents heroism and what I wanted to see in my mom and my dad.
Yeah.
The blue represents sadness. Like, when you're feeling blue, you're feeling down. And that's the mental health aspect of the brand, and that's why I created it. I felt it was a good symbol for what I have personally dealt with in my life, and I wanted to be able to showcase that and use that as like a positive, figure for people that know the story, want to support the story, and they want to help me, help us grow as a community, because it's a lifestyle brand as well. So what I'm pushing is a movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like for a long time, and I talk about this every now and then whenever I have like a male interviewee for the podcast, but I feel like it's so rare to have men talk about their mental health. Was it ever something where like your friends would be like they would be disappointed that you'd share it, or they would be like, why would you put yourself out there like that? Or has it always been pretty positive?
I mean, there's some people, because there's a lot of people that are sheltered when it comes to that type of stuff, But if you're gonna be an artist and you're making music, because there's already people out there. Like, if you think about it right now, the music, some of the music is like, it has these kids wanting to go out and shoot somebody. But at the end of the day, that's what they're putting out there. That's maybe their experiences, like an artist's experience. So they're putting it out there, and there's somebody that's going out and doing it. You know what I mean? Because they get the vibe. They're starting to feel it. Like, oh snap! You know what I mean? Like, it gives a certain energy, right? So it's important for me to put out whatever I'm putting out to the world, and give the energy that I have, you know what I mean, which is good energy. Give that out to the world so they can, receive it, so there could be a balance, you know what I mean? Because if it's like, if I don't say nothing, how is anybody ever going to have somebody that can help mentor them through the music, or help them? Because all they're going to have is these other people, you know what I mean? They're never going to have any guidance or anything through the music. They're just going to have somebody telling them, yo, shoot them up, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of, I just think that there needs to be a variety. There needs to be a way for these kids to be like, this is what I want to go support. Because when I was young, I like Kid Cudi or Pharrell, Kanye, you know what I mean? Certain people that were talking about something and had a message at the end of the day. So I think holding back my story wouldn't give them the opportunity to even know that I even exist, or somebody like me exists.
Totally.
Yeah.
Where do you see? Because I think being a part of UPRISERS Family Drive here today kind of goes along with the mission. It goes exactly along with the mission with Action Figure Miles. But where do you see Action Figure Miles going as a brand and as a mission? What's next for you?
I really want to take it to the next step. Like, I really, I have the music as well.
Yeah.
That I really want to implement. I really want it to be a full-on lifestyle brand where people are able to, because the brand to me is like a walking billboard. There's messaging, there's certain things that I want to really get out there. So for me, just being able to have the brand at another, like the next level, to a point where I just see tons and tons of people wearing it. I want to have a festival. I've been throwing tons of events for years. I want to have a festival. I want to be able to see everybody, walking around in the Action Figure Miles.
That's
like
awesome.
Clothing and stuff. Yeah, that's like that's a goal of mine, to just kind of really build this thing out to an actual. I even got a TV show that's coming too.
Yeah.
With Carl Jones.
So how much are you allowed to share about that?
I mean, we've been working on it for a while. We're looking to try to take it out in January.
Oh wow.
And we're working with an agent over at CAA. So I think things are kind of looking
Wow.
looking good right now. So try to figure out where we'll see where it goes.
Mm.
But Carl is, I mean, he's done the Boondocks and Black Dynamite and the Jellies with Tyler the Creator and so many other TV shows. So I literally couldn't have anybody better in my corner to make that happen. But to answer your question, yeah, I just really want to expand this thing to the next step and really show my story on a larger platform, because it's like I have this story, but not everybody knows what Action Figure Miles is actually about.
Right.
So I want to have the opportunity to like really showcase that on a larger scale. So when people really look at the brand, they know 100% this is what it's attached to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because not that many people pay too much attention into like looking into everything.
Right.
So it needs to just be a little bit more apparent.
Uh-huh.
And I want that's what I really want to build in the long term.
I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to grab a tissue and then hand sanitize.
Okay.
But I'm still, we have time, so don't worry. But,
Okay.
you touched on how that combines with music for the festival, or, just your platform in general. So what's next for the music side?
So for the music side, we're working on getting a label involved right now. So it looks like, because I just signed with this management company called Milk and Honey. So we'll figure out how everything goes. Just waiting for a label situation, and that's kind of where it's at right now. Because once we have a label, I can start rolling out the music. Because my biggest thing with the music is like, I've already been in the position where I was rolling out music independently, doing everything I needed to do independently, but I think it's best to learn from the mistakes that I've gone through, having a bad management team, people that don't really care to help move the needle.
Right.
Everyone's just kind of just sitting on on their butt like the whole time, and it's like, all right, if you're gonna just look at me and wait for me to just kind of like push my own career, that's literally what I've done for the past few years. Everything that people have seen on my Instagram or anything I've accomplished has been me pushing that stuff forward. I don't have like somebody on my team like in the background pushing and making these deals happen. It's literally me on the phone. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, I just got solid management, but I'm still waiting for even something on that side to happen. So it's like, it's kind of waiting to see when the best time is to push the project, because I don't want to just put it out there and then like it doesn't, because there's so many different components that go into building something that becomes like, I guess you can say, stable. You know what I mean? Versus just throwing it out there and the next thing you know, it's like a flop. So there's a lot of moving pieces. Like the TV show is one.
Right.
The brand, having activations, making sure everything is queued up throughout the year. Some cosigns, certain things that really build the narrative and like really show what I'm actually trying to like build, versus just like, oh, he just put out some music in a music video and that's it. And then that's all it's going to be. And then it's dead from there, So.
I was listening to your music, and I have someone in mind who I think would sound good. But do you have like a collab that you would like manifest to happen?
I've been working with Chad Hugo and Mike Larson from Pharrell's team.
Nice.
So I really want to be able to work with Pharrell. That's something I've been looking forward to. Or Tyler the Creator. I always run into Tyler. I just did Flog Now.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's Mike G, man. Mike G has been one of the people that have championed me for like years.
Yeah.
Like since I literally had nothing at all.
Wow.
He was somebody that truly looked out for me, had my back, and there's times where I had like $25 in my pocket during the tour that I set up. But
oh wow,
he was the bigger artist, so I was like, all right, well, he gets the bulk of the money at the end of the day, and he would just pass me bread.
Wow.
And I was like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I had no hotels to sleep in, so I was basically like no place to stay during tour because I had no money to like get a spot during tour back then. So I was like, shoot, he would just let me stay in his hotels.
Wow.
Yeah. So I definitely, you know, that's another person that I feel like I would want to continue working with.
Yeah.
But the two top people definitely Pharrell and Tyler for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
When I hear your sound, because I feel like you're kind of you're not contained to one genre,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Mm.
I feel like you would sound really good with Tizo.
Oh yeah.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? I feel like you both have like the rock kind of,
Mhm.
but like you could also do the rap side. I feel like
Yeah.
that'd be a crazy crossover.
Tizo's dope.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to talk to him at Vlog now.
Oh really?
But I just felt like it's best to just kind of wait until the right
Yeah.
time, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, nah, he's dope, and
Yeah.
I think that's actually a really really good solid like that would be a crazy collab.
I need a writing credit if that happens.
Got you, 100%.
To bring it back to the mental health though,
Mhm.
we talked a lot about where you've come from, and that makes for really knowing the foundation of where you're at.
Mhm.
But in terms of mental health, like where are you at now? What's giving you peace of mind? Where do you, besides music, like
Mhm.
what else do you use to give yourself comfort? And also just where are you mentally?
So CBD a lot really
Mm.
helps me. A lot of walking,
Uh-huh.
a lot of honestly pushing things aside now because like I was doing just back to back calls, back to back. Because if I'm also an artist and I'm also doing the business and I'm running multiple businesses and multiple things at one time, and I'm flying all over the place trying
Yeah.
to do all this stuff, right? So I started realizing like, let me take things, just let me kind of start pushing things back a little bit, and I started doing that because my mental, I used to have like feeling myself kind of like tremors and stuff like
Mm.
that because I'm just like so stressed out. So I was like, you know what? Let me start to kind of figure out I guess you could say, a system here to kind of move everything, um, kind of set certain things aside so I can, really get myself back good mentally. Um, I feel like right now where I'm at, I feel a lot better than I did a few months ago, you know. Um, but it's an off and on thing,
Yeah.
you know. Like one day you can be super excited, happy. The next day you just like down.
Yeah.
So it comes in waves when it comes to like depression, especially.
Yeah.
So it's
Totally.
like, yeah, it kind of just hits me at weird times.
Mhm.
So it's kind of hard to like say um, really where I'm at currently mentally because it is just like a roller coaster of
Right.
things. You know what I mean?
How do you handle the ups and downs? Because I think that's, it's really easy to let the downs bring you down.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of try to find that balance?
Um, Shoot, man. Like I said, I mean, walks.
Uh-huh.
Um, Sometimes I'll just go buy some stuff, which is
Mm.
not good sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'll just like put something new on my like new artwork
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that. Go do something creative. Um, Sometimes I'll just like do freestyles even. 'Cause I
Okay.
can't put the album out right now
Okay.
because I'm still working to try to get that out. I'll just like do some freestyles or just write a verse or something like that because
Nice.
I'll probably just be super mad about something.
Uh-huh.
So I got a lot of diss songs. You know, so I'll put everything on my phone and the
Uh-huh.
notes, just writing lyrics and stuff. So yeah, but
Well, I mean,
yeah,
it's cool you got the Reebok deal if you ever need new
yeah,
shoes. Because
exactly.
that's what I do. Whenever I need to buy something, I
Mhm.
instantly check for shoes.
Nah, 100%. Yo, honestly, that's a good way to kind of make yourself feel better, but it is like temporary.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But yeah.
Um, you mentioned something earlier about the I think it was just a second ago. I wanted to make sure I followed up on it. About pulling yourself back. Because I think, especially if you're independent, if you're a self starter, you want to take every single opportunity.
Yeah.
And then when you're not working, it's easy to sometimes be like, I'm not doing enough,
Yeah.
But like, was it hard for you to kind of tell yourself, I need to take a step back? Was it hard for you to tell yourself, I need some time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 2019, I had to really step back at that
Mhm.
point because I was signed to Empire. That shit didn't work out because not like I don't really fully think it was 100%. It wasn't like fully Empire's fault. I just didn't have a good team, you know, and like how would half of these chains and these different company, these big corporate companies work without a good team of people or a
Right.
good. That's why people get fired all the time. You know what I'm saying? You don't show up to work on time. You don't. You know what I mean? There is no support. It's like, hey, like you gotta go, man. You're not like supporting the company properly. You're not representing us good. You gotta go because you're slowing us down. You know what I'm saying? So I have to have those people that are representing me to make sure that all those people are solid. And if they're not, the whole ship is gonna go under.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I dealt with that in 2019. I mean, I dealt with that my whole career because I just couldn't. I still haven't been able to find like the best manager. Just manage myself. So that being said, it's been kind of dang. Lost my train of thought that time. Bring it back.
Management. Maybe you had the wrong team around you.
What was the question you said?
Well, it was about telling yourself to take a step back.
Yeah. So 2019, that's when I realized I had to take a step back because everything was like kind of there was a shift, and I realized it was coming too.
Yeah.
Because I saw all these things happening. It was kind of like it's funny now because it's like I was like, yeah, dog, I'm going downhill.
Oh man.
Yeah, nah, for real.
It's
I already because I could see it in the summertime of 2019 that it was about to take a fall.
Really?
Because I kept asking my team, I'm like, yo, I got like 7 or 8 months of things organized. Like I was setting it all up. I was going on Adult Swim, doing stuff on TV. Then I turned around and I was doing tours in Australia, and I was just doing all the stuff that I was setting up because I had just kept trying to figure it out, and things were coming through, but one person is not going to be able to fill up 12 months of opportunity.
Right.
So I was telling my team, like, hey, I have this and that lined up to this time. Could you guys help add more resources and things that we can, like, more opportunities that we can, like, continue to build this? They were like, nah, we how are we going to do that? And just, like, kind of making me feel like I just was not, like, worth the time or worth anything. You know what I mean? To a point where it was, like, kind of scary. So I took out that time, and it hurt me through, 2020. Just sitting on my tail trying to figure out how to build everything up. And taking that pause was the worst, man, because I wanted to continue to put out music, continue to do everything, but I had already learned that there were certain things that just weren't working, so I have to fix those things. It was never the music, it was never any of that. It's always just been finding the right team, because I've always done shows and there's always been hundreds of people at the shows singing the songs. So I know there's a fan base. You know what I mean? It's just trying to manage everything yourself. It's just like, I just don't know anyone that can do it. So I took out that time, developed a brand, developed a TV show, started really putting and molding everything together. And once the end of 2021 hit, my whole life had changed. Like, everything changed.
Yeah.
Got, moved to Toluca Lake in a nice crib. Like, everything just kind of shifted. I got with PacSun through Chad Albers, and then also my boy Chase, who looked out for me. And just kept doing these collaborations, kept putting the brand together. And through that, got a lot of different music connections and started to just rebuild everything.
Yeah.
And now I'm back in a really, really good place versus where I was then. I was upset, I was bitter. Like, every artist put something out, that's trash. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's easy. I feel like that's so easy to feel that way, especially because, I know you didn't blame the label. I don't, I think that's fairly so. You don't need to blame the label, but it's like when they're bringing on a lot of new artists, right? It's hard to make sure that they're putting the right team around you every time, because they're always bringing in new people. They're gonna see what sticks, and sometimes it just won't work at that time, at that specific juncture. But, I think from your mission, you're one of the people that I'm looking forward to seeing thrive. I'm gonna make sure it's gonna work out. I'm gonna need a copper chain.
Yo, yes.
I'll let you know. But for the people out there, whatever streaming services for music, or where they could find you on socials, where they can buy your clothes, do you want to plug anything before we wrap up? And I'm gonna hand sanitize and blow my nose real quick because I want to dap you up before we head out.
All right,
But
sure.
plug all your stuff. Plug all your
Okay,
stuff.
so Raheem Miles, you can find me. Apple Music is Raheem Miles. Spotify's Raheem Miles. Instagram is Raheem Miles Raps. Twitter is Raheem Miles. Everything's Raheem Miles. Type in Raheem Miles, you find me. And that's RAKEEMMILES, which I assume is on there anyways. But but yeah.
And then the clothes.
Oh, the clothes. Dang, almost forgot the clothes, man. ActionFigureMiles.com. You can find the D2C clothing, and then PacSun is Action Figure Miles.
Yes, sir. All right, Raheem, my
Yep.
homie. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, man.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're gonna wrap up, and then in 5 minutes we'll be bringing in our next guest. Did you cut already? We are coming back. I'm gonna make sure the audio is coming through because I'm worried about.
Okay.
I've been worried about audio coming through or not, but let me make sure because there's a little delay of the actual stream.
No worries.
But I think we'll be good to go. Once I hear my voice, we will get started. And,
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little funky, but
You're good.
okay. It works. So we are
Okay.
here again at Family Drive. For people just now tuning in, we're doing 4 groups of interviews with really great groups. We just had designer and musician Rakeem Miles, and now we're coming to some of our really great community work and community organizations that are here with us today, Yellow Chair Collective. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to be doing groups of 40-minute interviews, so we'll try to fit in as much as we can within this 40-minute section. But we have 2 standard questions that we're asking everyone, and then we're going to try to just fill in the rest of the time with just trying to share about mental health and the work that Yellow Chair Collective does and about you two as individuals. So first things first, do you want to both introduce yourselves?
Yeah, my name is Linda Yoon. I'm the founder and co-director at Yellow Chair Collective. We are a mental health organization based in Los Angeles.
I'm Helen. I'm an associate therapist at Yellow Chair Collective. I'm also the outreach coordinator and do the film and podcast stuff.
Helen does a lot.
I do many things.
The first time I met Helen was at the historic Filipino town karaoke event.
Yeah. You had like a man bun.
I did. I had very long hair at the time.
And so when I met you again, I was like, is that you?
It's funny because we just had our 5th Changing Tats Gala. It was the 3rd one that I've been a part of.
Yeah.
But at all 3, I've had different styles. I had like a
Yes.
mullet thing the first year, and then I had the man bun, and now the shaved head.
I know. Like for
Yeah.
people that are just like listening to us now, I interviewed you for our Yellow Chair podcast. And when doing research for you, there were like several pictures of you
Yeah.
with different types of hair.
Yeah.
And then you're doing a documentary right now with like Rise Williams, and like your hair is like the hair you have now, but it's a little bit like grown out. And I was like, dang, this guy loves experimenting with hair.
It's at the point where I don't go to the barber anymore, so I either shave it all off or I don't touch it.
Oh,
so
that's smart.
It's just one or the other. But
That's
it's
smart.
So Helen, we've met through that event. I was on the Yellow Chair podcast. I've emailed you numerous times. I'm sure I've probably seen you multiple other times.
Yes.
And then Linda, I don't even know the first time we met. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Like
Yeah.
we are in similar circle.
Yeah.
We are at a lot of AAPI, events in LA.
Yes.
I'm sure we've seen it around, but I'm a little shy, so I'm not the person who usually go up and introduce myself. I kind of like to be on the background, so that's probably why.
Well, I only set this stage because it makes it so much easier because I know both of you. And we've had long form interviews. First it was first I interviewed I don't remember which one came first.
I think it was Linda and Sujin first,
Yeah.
and then it was me.
I interviewed you both, and then Helen interviewed me, so we're all kind of familiar with each other. But bringing us here today while we're live on location at Family Drive, I wanted to ask you both, like, what does being a part of Family Drive mean to both of you and to Yellow Chair Collective?
Yeah, we're really honored to be here, be part of it. I was really excited to volunteer. And seeing so many people, we were just talking, right? We were making sandwiches and just talking with others, like where they're from, how did they hear about the event. So many people from like such a diverse background, just wanting to serve, wanting to volunteer, wanting to just help out. That just embodies community, and that's all we are really about.
Well, I grew up going to family drives like this and like volunteering. So I got into filmmaking actually in high school because I started this program called Empower Youth, and I actually started like filming people behind the camera. And one of the reasons why I love coming here is because there's so many creative people, and like everyone has like a camera in their hands, but also here to serve. So it's just nice to know that there are other people like me here, you know, with like similar values.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, as I think we were discussing, I think we were filming, but how I've seen you both at events, or I've seen Yellow Chair Collective at many events before. I think it kind of just goes to show like how many diverse backgrounds come to such an important event like this. Like we're both mental health organizations, but then there's clothing designers, there's content creators, I think it just shows like how many different groups of intersections of people are just caring about what we're doing today. So I think it's really awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask the next question we're asking everyone, and which is, when did your mental health journey begin? And I kind of asked you about yours already, but for new audiences for this live one, do you want to share again?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pinpoint like when the mental health journey began, but awareness perhaps kind of happened when I in first grade. I was still living in Korea back at the time, and I'm not sure where I got the word depression, but I remember hearing somewhere, and I felt like that described what I was experiencing. And I remember telling my classmate that, and then the next day she started avoiding me. She was telling other people to avoid me. So I was very confused, and I kind of confronted her like, "Hey, like, what happened? Like, you're avoiding me." I don't even know how that courage came out. I just like something's wrong. I need to ask her directly. And she told me that, "Hey, you told me that you're depressed yesterday," and I told my mom, and my mom told me that do not hang out with crazy kids.
Oh my god.
So that was how deep the stigma was growing in Korea in back in 90s that I grew up there. And my parents also embodied that kind of attitude. So we immigrated when I was around 10 years old, and we had just so much we had some family violence and family immigration adjustment. There was a lot going on. And my little sister heard about therapy. Therapy did not really exist growing up.
Right.
Not even an idea. We keep our dirty laundry to ourselves. And my sister was, told my dad because he was yelling at us about something. Like, maybe we should try therapy. And that got my dad even more angry. Like, just yelling at us. And I mean, and he just kind of blamed that you're making too many white friends.
Really?
Yeah, kind of like, oh, you're becoming too American, right? So kind of that battle between how do we still value, I guess, in some way, traditional values of my own culture, but like adjusting, in America, that was a struggle because my parents didn't want us to be like too American, but we also have to survive, live here. But the idea was very clear, like for us as Koreans, like we're not supposed to talk about mental health. But although it's not supposed to talk about, but you're becoming more aware about it because you know that that's not something you're not supposed to feel or talk. And that's kind of where my journey started because I started kind of questioning much as I want to kind of like, oh, that's not something I should be talking about, that's shameful. But they also opened up like curious side of me, like why? Like we're really struggling, like there needs to be a better way.
I want to ask follow-ups, but I want to make sure I balance talking to both of you.
No,
So
you're good. You can ask Linda questions if you have.
I think that might be smart before I forget.
Yeah, do it.
I think this kind of will incorporate both of you, but
Yeah.
it's interesting because our last guest, Rakeem, he was talking about how his mental health journey, before he didn't even know it was mental health, but like, he started being put on medications and everything in the first grade as well. Like his journey started in the first grade.
Wow.
So I think it's pretty eye-opening about how early people's mental health journeys begin, whether they're aware of it or not. So I feel like I wanted to ask you what was it like to feel that at such an early age? Like, do you think you fully had an understanding of it, or do you think it kind of took some time for you to reflect and be like, wow, that situation was pretty heavy for first grade?
My family have a lot of intergenerational trauma, like that I witnessed a lot of anger outbursts. We had violence in family. So the emotional aspect of like, oh, we're unstable wasn't really a thing. It's just kind of like what I grew up with. Like my parents are like that. I'm like that. I'm learning that, right? But I think when I start going to school, right, socializing, I'm like, oh, not everyone's like this. They're in their emotions. And I think that's when I realized maybe what I'm feeling is different. And then I don't even know. I still cannot remember where I got the idea or where I heard about depression. But when I heard it, I remember like that resonates. I think that's what I'm experiencing, and perhaps my family. And that's where I think my awareness became more. But my friend's reaction, right, really told me clear that that's not how I'm supposed to feel or I'm supposed to even talk about. So I feel like there's a lot of period of time that pretend those emotions didn't exist, and but they come back. My family situation was very roller coaster all the time, and then immigration definitely made a lot more pressure. And in America, it was a little bit more open, talking about emotions, mental health. Yeah, there's pushback from my family, but also people having conversation about mental health more and more, right? So it's been a journey. There was a big part of me that I'm like, I cannot open that Pandora box. Like I'm not supposed to. Like it almost brings shame to my family if I do. So yeah, it took me a long time. Like even being in career in mental health was very conflicting for me for the longest time. And my parents didn't know what I was. I wonder though, sometimes they understand fully what I do still, but they thought I was working at a hospital. Oh yeah, hospital, like so something like that. So it's still a journey. We have definitely had better conversation with my parents about mental health. They're more open, and Korea has changed a lot too. Like I'm so surprised with there's so many programs on TV in Korea that talk about mental health so openly, more than ever. Yes, it's still an ongoing journey though.
I'm so sorry to the listeners and also to my guests, because I hope I'm not coming off as rude. I'm just trying to balance multiple things on my computer and phone.
You're totally fine.
This is our first live stream, so I'm trying to balance quite a few things.
Yeah, no worries.
So I hope viewers don't think I'm being rude to my guests. I hope you don't feel that.
No, you're totally
Okay,
fine.
good.
I get it.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. The other thing is I'm going to grab a tissue right after I ask the question. But I
Sure.
want to ask you about when your mental health journey started.
Yeah. So this is a hard question because I always kind of knew that there was something wrong with the way that my parents talked to each other. And then, like, my mom always told me stories about my grandpa. So my grandpa died when I was 5, and it was like my first experience of death. But like my mom always like grew up telling me that my grandpa was a gambler. And I didn't know anything about addiction at the time, but my mom had like an addiction to cleaning and like control. And I didn't have words for that as a kid, but I would lose a hair clip and I would start to like have a panic attack when I would lose a hair clip. And then come high school, I started to struggle with a lot of like self-harm and depression. And it wasn't until I started dating like the first guy I ever dated, and he started telling me this thing called therapy. And then he started telling me, he's like, if I ever have kids, I never want them to feel like my problems become their problems.
Wow.
And then I started to think, I was like, oh, I didn't have the words for at the time, but I was like, I just know that something is wrong with me. Like every time I'm angry, I start to hurt myself, and I don't want to go through that anymore. And then I went to therapy at like 18. My first therapist was white, told me that my parents were crazy and that I had to like, excommunicate them. And I was like, that's not how you do it. Like something in me was like, that's not my truth. That's not my authenticity. And then I went to a second therapist. She said she was a Christian therapist, and she started talking more than she was hearing me. And then my third therapist was married to a South Asian Indian man. And she started to explain to me this thing called intergenerational trauma, that like we don't always know that there's this invisible thing called trauma and that it's been passed down to us. And so I didn't know that workaholism was a form of addiction. I had no idea that gambling was a form of addiction, and how gambling had like transcended into my mom's body and into my own, of like this self-hatred, feeling like I had to externalize all my control. So I've been with my same therapist for like 6 or 7 years. started working at this coffee shop, and this woman named Linda, funny enough, would come to the coffee shop, and she would just like talk to me about her life. She was a victim of domestic violence. She started introducing me to her son. She introduced me to her mom, and then one day she wants me to become like a witness to her wedding.
Wow.
And I'm like, Linda, I'm working. I was like, I can't get fired from my job. And she says, you know, Helen, I just feel so safe with you. Like, have you ever thought about becoming a therapist? I was like, me? Become a therapist? And she's like, I don't know, you just have something about you that's like, it's so safe. And I feel like I can talk to you. And then I go and apply to therapy school. I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And then I get a full ride, and I just feel like the door just keeps opening further and further and further. And I paid like $0 to go to grad school, and then I just like, and then I'm here.
Wow.
And so I feel like it's almost like all of those experiences I feel like happened for me, because now that I work for Yellow Chair, I feel like there's an experience that we all cumulatively go through that we don't really have a name for. But my clients always say to me, like, oh, you get it. Like, I feel like the way that you're looking at me, the way that you're summarizing everything, like, you understand my experience. And so I hear from my clients all the time, like, oh my gosh, my last therapist told me to just, like, never talk to my mom again. And I was like, no, like, your mom is operating out of her 5-year-old self. And, like, you just have to, like, have compassion. So that's a long-winded way to, like, talk about my story, but now I'm here.
You summarized that really well. That was not long-winded.
I grew up in church, and like we always had to like share our testimony. And so I was like, I got really good at like, okay, da 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 da,
Okay.
da da da, and they're like, everyone's crying, and I'm like, eh.
So the other Linda, not this Linda.
Yeah,
I could
yeah,
relate to her because I'm like,
Uh-huh.
the first time I spoke to you, I was like, your voice is the most soothing. I've bragged to Sujin and Linda about when I was on your podcast,
Yeah.
or when I first did like the introductory interview with you.
sure.
I was like, you have the most calming voice where I do feel heard and listened to. So I think they were right.
It's crazy because my voice started changing when I started going to therapy.
Oh wow.
So like my voice was really high pitched when I first started going to therapy. It kind of sounded like this. And then when I started going, it was almost like my body was stuck in this like 6 or 7-year-old me that just like wanted approval and wanted excellence. And now I feel like I'm functioning out of a place of excellence because I want to be of service,
Wow.
not because I want to prove anything to anyone or prove anyone wrong. But it was like a lot of work and years of like hard work and toil. But I feel like me coming off with a voice of calmness is just a lot of the spiritual and internal work that I've started doing with myself.
That's awesome. I have a few follows, but
Sure.
one is even in not hearing your voice. My girlfriend went through CT Stream, and she ended up with the therapist that she loved. She did her 10 sessions through CT Stream and is still seeing that therapist, so it worked out. But when she went through our directory, she gravitated to you.
What the heck?
So
That's so cool.
She's around, and she was like, "Ugh, I wish I was able to work with Linda. With Helen.
Yeah.
And we're going to be able to work that out with Yellow Chair to bring you guys back on our CT Stream directory. We're
That's
getting
so cool.
closer to that.
Yeah.
You're working on it right now.
Yes, yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it. But that was the funniest thing. I was like once we spoke, I was like, oh, I feel like I would work really well with Helen if she were my therapist. And then it was so funny that she was like, oh, I really wanted to work
That's
with her.
crazy. You know what? I get that response all the time, especially with like young college Filipino women, because that's when I started my journey. And I know what it was like for them to like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like you're surfing in the ocean and you get stuck in the deep waters and you're going like this asking to be rescued, but people are like telling you that you're just swimming wrong. And so when I meet with like clients from CT Stream, they always tell me like, oh, you don't want me to be anyone but myself. And then it kind of like, it's like a warmth almost that I feel with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then one other follow-up, and then I want to
Sure.
get into the Yellow Chair as a whole with both of you.
Yeah.
But when that first boyfriend brought up, excuse me.
It's okay.
When that first boyfriend brought up therapy,
Uh-huh.
because that could be like, you need therapy, or it could be like, what are you trying to tell me? You know, like,
Yeah.
how did that conversation go? Was it did he approach it with a calmness, or how did you receive it? Because I could see that going in so many different
So
directions.
many different ways. Well, he was talking about himself.
Oh, okay.
So his dad was homeless and had chosen to stay homeless because apparently, it's a long-winded story, but like the mob, his dad was like a bail bonds businessman, and the mob like stole money from him and took away all of his money, and so out of justice, he stayed homeless for 7 years.
Wow.
And so my boyfriend at the time was telling me the immense trauma he went through just knowing that his dad chose justice over the kids. So by justice I mean like parents got divorced, never really like stayed in each other's lives. And so he was talking about how like he never wanted to repeat that same mistake, but he felt like it was still inside of him, so he started getting therapy, and then I started getting therapy.
Wow.
So
That's amazing, because I feel like, that could be a very, not in that scenario, but in other scenarios, that could be very gaslighty. But that very much so was one of the most appropriate ways to bring it up, I feel like.
Because if you met me at that time, you wouldn't have been able to tell that I had issues, because I was very good at covering it up, and I was like good at everything. And so I was getting straight A's, I had a scholarship, I was working multiple jobs. But like I think that when it comes to mental health, people don't always know that there's a hidden side to our excellence.
Right.
And I think that's a huge part of my story.
Wow. So in bringing it all together, you went to school to become a therapist. It brings you to Yellow Chair Collective. And I don't even think we've had a chance to really introduce what Yellow Chair Collective is. So if we could maybe do that, I think
Look
that
us
would
up on Google.
we did link the Yellow Chair Instagram in the chat in case people want to check that out. But I do think it's great to hear it out loud. So who wants to take that away?
Well,
You founded the
Yeah, I
company,
feel like
so you go.
well, so Susan is my business partner, who's our executive director. We have been friends. We became friends working in a community mental health organization where we serve mostly East and Southeast Asians of low-income families. And we have witnessed a lot of gaps in the service, a lot of things that we kind of have to figure out in ways that what would be most effective for these families and individuals who bring so much intergenerational trauma and immigration. There was not just mental health, but there were so many like other barriers too, housing, food, etc. Working with low-income communities, and we used to keep talking about how it would be great we can create this like a more holistic way of approaching working with these clients to bring more of a fuller healing, right? Not just individual, but also in a community way, which we did at that organization a little bit, and we saw a glimpse of how powerful that community healing was. And years later, I kind of got started in my practice. And I remember I wanted to focus on working with Asian clients, but people will say it's like in private practice, Asian clients don't want to pay for therapy. Like unless it's free, like they're not gonna be coming. That's not a priority.
That's so crazy, because I feel like that's not true.
That wasn't true, but there was a lot more stigma when I started.
Yeah.
And definitely, there were some people who were like finding me very careful, very cautious, who are Asian, wanting to try. But my caseload was like 50% non-Asian and about 50% Asian. And then 2020 came along, and we have pandemic happen, and we have anti-Asian hate crimes happening, and then my caseload just became just like all Asian clients seeking. And then soon I had like a long wait list, and I've been wanting to always give back to the to like future therapists. I felt like growing in my program. Susan and I talk about it a lot, and then we also co-founded a nonprofit that focuses on training next generation of therapists, which is Entwine Community. We really felt like there was a lack of that training, that experience, if you want to serve your own community especially in Asian American community. And Susan will talk about she took one multicultural class in
Oh my
her
gosh.
her marriage and family program.
Yeah.
That was
wild.
like all cultures. Like I went to social work program, social workers, yay.
Social workers. We had a ton of classes that actually educated us on that. But.
Yeah, but it was still, they were still lacking. There wasn't anything like Asian
Yes,
focus, right?
yes.
So we
Oh my
really
gosh.
wanted to create that as well. So I got started hiring associates who want to serve Asian American population, and then as the time went on, as people know, 2020 to 2023, I mean, and still in some ways ongoing. The anti-Asian hate experiences were becoming really overwhelming, and a lot of people who never sought therapy or really hid their mental health, like seeing those violent images to people who look like you, who could be just you, or people who actually experience crimes, like we were overflowing and we couldn't keep up. And we just recruiting, interviewing, and like training, and like it's been a busy last 3 years, and now we're over 40 therapists
So,
in California and New York currently.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So Linda and Sujin are coming out with a book, and I started reading like the first couple of chapters, and like I'm going to create almost like comparison, because when Tyler Perry was coming up, they told him that no black people would ever go to the movies.
Really?
And he was like, no, it's because you're not talking to them and you're not serving them. And if you ever get a chance to read like Where I Belong, the first 2 or 3 chapters, it talks about how huge Asia is and how we categorize Asian Americans as just East Asian. And I feel like so much of the population is not being spoken to in this country, let alone California. Like, look around this entire Family Drive event. Most of the people that are here are of the minority, but most of them being Asian. And I feel like we're not speaking to them, or like our stories aren't being told. And so I feel like the messaging you got is similar to what Tyler Perry got when he started up,
Yeah, we really really expanded by having a lot of focus on community. We are doing a lot of partnerships.
Yeah.
We actually got quoted as a nonprofit a couple times.
That's so wild
right?
to me.
Yeah.
How, like, if you're serving a minority, you're
We operated like I'm a social worker, so I operated like I'm running a social work organization
Right.
Yeah.
for longest time.
Yeah.
Hence, we have our own nonprofit now. But yeah, like we really got ourselves into doing a lot of pro bono work, a lot of like giving back, being in the community. And that really also helped people to know, like, oh, there's a therapy place for Asian Americans.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm being seen. Like, I've even told that to, like, people coming to our event or looking through our website. They are like, I just feel so seen, like, so empowered. I've never seen a therapist who looked like me in this, many people in one place.
Right.
Yeah.
So good.
So I think I want to trace it back to the anecdote you mentioned about your first therapist.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience. I did 2 sessions with my therapist, I think.
So frustrating.
And it was like I was getting cut off at every step. Like I would be trying to tell the backstory to what I wanted to discuss, and then she'd stop me to discuss this specific family dynamic or this specific thing. But it's like it was it was more of me listening than talking. So I felt very seen by what you said there.
Yeah.
But what is the importance of culturally sensitive therapy? Like where have you seen that come up, either with clients or in your own experiences with a therapist?
With Filipino culture, there's so many different nuances that you don't always know about. Like, I had a client once whose therapist reported her mother to DCFS because she told her therapist, like, I'm uncomfortable with my mom, like, having nicknames for my private parts. And if you don't know the specificity of Filipino culture, we do have nicknames for private parts. It's just common in the culture. And then this, like, language barrier that happens, like, because every Filipino knows English doesn't mean that Filipinos talk in an American way. And there's this, like, direct, piercing bluntness that's in our culture that's not meant to be hurtful. It's just meant to be honest. And we value honesty and collectivity more than we do individuality. And so as a therapist, like, let's say you're a white therapist working with a Filipino client and you hear that your mom is, like, coming home from work and she's mad and she's telling you that she's mad that the dishes aren't washed and that XYZ. Like, that's just your mom airing out her frustration because she's had a bad day, but you have to learn to listen to the indirect body language.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're coming from American culture, like, you categorize that as abusive. And that's what happened to me as well, of like, oh, my mom's a narcissist, or my mom has like personality disorder. But no, she was just tired, and like she never learned all of these tools.
Right.
So I think that like cultural competency has a lot to do with just like being able to not assume like what your client is actually going through, because even in the Filipino experience, like, I consider myself more Pacific Islander because there's like 10 islands in the Philippines and all of us have our different cultures. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, I actually really relate. Like, my first therapist was white as well in high school. I was going through a lot, so one of my mentors really convinced me, like, you know, I feel like you really need therapy. And was able to find someone. But even we looked, there was an Asian therapist existing around me at the time.
Because most of them are doctors or engineers or stuff.
Like, I mean, that pressure that we had growing up. But yeah, and then I remember just hearing about my family, because that was the main issue for my mental health. She just kept cutting me off and asking, like, so, like, why your parents did that? Like, couldn't wrap around her
Instead
head.
of asking you how you're doing, they're asking you why your parents thought that about you.
Like, why did your parents say that to you, you know?
You know what's so funny is the fact that Helen latched onto that as being like comical. I was just like, I would ask that too, because I'm not a therapist, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But like the fact that you know as a therapist, like that's totally wrong.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
let's say that, like, how do I say this? Let's say a kid breaks a vase, and the kid says to you, like, I broke a vase. The parent then yells at the child and says, why did you do it? What message does that send to the child? Like, never say that to me again, like, shaming, like, you did something wrong. And, like, usually when you want to ask why, it's either coming up from a place of curiosity or a place of shame. And, like, when a therapist asks why, like, you have to understand that you're in a position of power.
right.
And then for a lot of children, especially Asian kids, like, they hear that as, like, oh, I'm wrong. That, like, this was my experience. And so oftentimes as a therapist, especially from an Asian American standpoint, you have to ask, like, how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
You know? Because you don't need to explain, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely had to explain a lot about, well, I was young, so, like, I don't even have my own explanation, right? So it became a very frustrating situation when this, you know, therapist who has no idea about my culture, family dynamic, just kind of like labeling as like just malfunctioning. Something's really wrong with your family. You know how you're responding to each other. I mean, there were some legitimate concerns. I'm not gonna ignore that, but it was very like, you asked me why. Like, I don't even know why at that age, and I'm in high school. So that was very uncomfortable experience, my first therapy experience. And I remember, like, oh, maybe my parents are right, you know?
Wow.
Therapy wasn't for Asian people, and then that made me not want to pursue therapy for the longest time. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's pretty eye-opening, but I think it's really interesting too, because on the flip side, we've encountered people through CT Stream and the people I know outside of CT Stream who will seek therapy specifically outside of their direct culture, whether it's a JA, wanting to have a JA therapist, or having someone non-JA specifically, seeking someone outside of the culture because it feels too close to home. Have you encountered anything like that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I had friends who did that. It's like, oh, I think I can work with Asian therapists too close to me, or they are willing to have Asian therapists because they're Asian, but like, let's say they're Korean. They're willing to have some like Asian therapists, but not Korean therapists. Feels too close,
Right.
you know, because a lot of time it can feel a little triggering to having worked through certain aspects of your culture, right? So yeah, we get that once in a while. It's not a common thing because we specialize in Asian American therapy.
Right.
But we do have people like, I want an Asian therapist, but not of my direct culture.
Yeah. I remember when I first started working at Yellow Chair, I had a client consultation, and he asked me, he was like, why is Asian American therapy important? And I remember telling him, I was like, it's something that only you can answer. Because if it's not something that is important to you, I don't have to convince you to work with me. And I think that, like, in my experience, having an Asian American therapist is usually because you want to understand and you want to stop hating people, you know?
We got the 5-minute sign. So I need to make sure I'm pointed
Sure.
with my questions here. But, I think, what have you seen change since the creation of Yellow Chair? I mean, it hasn't been super long, but I think the field of mental health and the way the general public talks about it has completely changed over the span of 5 years. Have you noticed a shift in how people come to you for therapy, or how, like, the discussions around therapy have changed? Like, has there been a shift, do you feel?
I feel like popular culture definitely made therapy a lot more normalized. During pandemic, because everybody was struggling with mental health, isolated, there was a lot of focus on mental health, making it okay, like
Right.
everybody's struggling. Someone made a comment the other day that they felt like since we're kind of going back to like quote unquote normal, that they feel like
What is normal?
I know what is normal. That's why I said quote unquote normal. That it feels a little bit like, oh, people are like less about
Yeah,
mental
yeah.
health. Like
Mhm.
I think environment changes and
Yeah.
people adjust. There's other ways to cope. Besides going to therapy, right? Which we don't think healing only happens in therapy. Like healing happens in the community, healing happens in the nature. Like there's other ways that we have to take care of ourselves. But yes, people, especially in Asian American community, there has been a lot more conversations that got started. Because we had to have that conversation in some ways, right? There was just too much we were seeing, enduring, and we had to really come together as a community. And we saw that, like there, like before pandemic and now, there's a lot more Asian American resources
Yeah.
around mental health than ever before. Like I remember when I was first starting, there wasn't any. Like I'm like, is there any other Asian American resources out there? There was barely any, and
Right.
there's so many more. And Sujin and I are releasing a book that's coming out in January 9th called Where I Belong. And I remember when we were talking to our agent, it was gonna be one of like the first books.
Yeah.
But as we are finding out, there's gonna be a lot more books coming out next year about Asian American mental health
Wow.
that we've been connecting. Like we're so excited about
That's
it.
so cool.
It's like it was like 0, and then like I know Dr. Ron's book's out right now. Like 1 to like there's gonna be so many more, and like we were building this community, and we were hoping to do some kind of like AAPI mental health books,
Whoa,
something
that'd be
like that.
cool.
Yeah, they'll be really cool. This
That's
is a dream
so
right
cool.
now. Anybody want to sponsor? We need sponsors.
talk.
Yeah. So
We
those.
could talk.
Yeah, definitely. We'll talk.
I'm interested. I'm interested in the AAPI Mental Health Book Fair.
Yeah,
That would be
that-
so cool.
We are just really excited about that right now.
Panel.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we only have a couple minutes left,
Mhm.
but
Okay.
is there anything else besides the book? Like, what else is on the horizons for you both, or what are you excited about Yellow Chair Collective, or
Yeah, especially last year and this year, we started to do more like in-person events. Really building community here in Los Angeles as
Right.
well, and like our virtual communities are still going on. We have some community in New York, and Washington is being formed right now as
Oh,
well.
awesome.
So yeah, we're really excited about having more community-focused events. Our nonprofit Entwine community, we serve a lot of pro bono and low fee services for Asian American clients. And then we just want to continue doing our work and just continue building on that community.
Great.
You have anything you want to add?
I feel like I'm really grateful that you founded the company, because I feel like I've changed by even just being an employee of the company. Like I actually was reading the book because I'm so lucky I got an early release, but I was like, oh, I feel like I didn't know I had like a stress and anxiety when I went into the company, and ever since like a year or so of like working for you, I feel like I'm more myself than I've ever been. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being on our team. You didn't, that was a choice you also made too.
Yeah. Do we have time?
Yeah, go for it, please.
I didn't get accepted the first time, remember?
You didn't?
I applied and then I emailed you back. I was like, if you want like free podcast stuff, I'll help you. And then you were like, yeah, we have openings.
It was more of
because you were looking for a couples therapist.
We are looking for couple
Yeah.
therapists. And we were looking for somebody, maybe someone who could do also help with media.
Yeah.
But it was, my memory is really, really vague right now.
It's okay.
But,
It's okay. You're busy.
Well, like we did not hire her for free. I want to make that clear. We hire her
like an actual employee.
Yeah, actual employee, because we were also looking for someone who can do therapy and someone who can do media.
Yeah.
And then once you mentioned it, I'm like, oh, like maybe that's something we can work with. I mean, like you've been a really great hire, so thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
I will be reffing their fight after this, as Helen brought up the wait to get hired. But in all seriousness, thank you both for your time. We already have the Yellow Chair Instagram and websites and N20 community in the chat linked for people to check out.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll be back in about 5 minutes with our next guests. And thank you both so much. Great to talk with you both again.
Thank you for having us.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're back. Looks like audio's on. Music has been thumping since like the last interview, so it might be a little distracting. I was hearing some Beyonce, like kind of trying to keep track of where it was in the song, but no, we're good. We're good. I think the audio's coming through good.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
we're just doing 40-minute interviews with groups of 2 so far. We had Rakeem on earlier as one of the designers. We just had Yellow Chair Collective as a mental health organization, and now we're trying to do like based on like style of why you guys are here, and now we have like some creators here.
Yeah.
So we have 40 minutes. I'm gonna try to keep myself at a minimum, even though I've been blabbering on this whole time. But please introduce yourselves and the work you guys do.
Ryan Alexander Holmes, content creator, actor. I make a lot of content just based in family and cultural values, and I talk about like some controversial topics, not controversial to me, but to the world.
Right.
And I use humor sort of to educate and disarm people. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
My name is Jeff Yamasaki. Mainly men's fashion content creator. Been doing that full time this year, and I've been doing it for maybe the last 3 years, starting from
Wow.
the pandemic. And then before then, I was kind of a corporate guy doing accounting, stereotypical, studying hard, studying for my CPA, and then doing the corporate work for about like 6-7 years, and then now I'm full time creating content, being creative.
That's a
So, yeah.
flex to have to be a CPA and then like, oh no, I'm full time male fashion model and creator. Yeah, that's dope.
What about you? Did you go straight into acting and
No,
content?
bro, I majored in business.
Okay.
I went to Berkeley. I majored in business. I worked for my dad's law firm for a bit. Every summer I worked at an internship in a financial firm.
Wow.
And I didn't like any of it at all. And I was trying so hard to pretend that I wanted to do it. And it didn't work. So eventually I moved to New York, and I told my parents I was going to work on Wall Street because I had a bunch of friends that worked on Wall Street. And a part of me believed that. But as soon as I got there and I sat on trading floors and I sat at desks with my friends that worked there and I saw their team, I was just like, there's no way I can do this. There's no way I'm shouting into a phone about crunching numbers and selling stock. And I just, no shade to the people that are in that business still, because I still have really good friends that do that. But I didn't feel like I was contributing to the world, and I didn't feel like this is what I wanted to do in my life. So I started getting into the arts. I started modeling. I signed with a modeling agency out there, started working doing that. I told them I wanted to get into acting, so they got me a commercial agent, started going out for commercials. And in this one commercial audition, I thought I did really well, but the casting director took me to the side, and she was like, I thought she was going to be like, you got it, you were so amazing, we love you, I've never seen an actor so good. She took me to the side, she's like, I don't know what that was, but you need to like go to class and like figure out, if you really want to do this, because I can see that you're so passionate about it. But I don't know what the hell I just saw. Like, go take some classes. So I really took that to heart. And I thanked her. I was like, thank you, because I guess I was delusional. And so for me, coming from such a scholastic background, I was like, well, I don't want to go to the studios where, like, anyone can sort of go to that. I want to go to, like, a prestigious, like, program. So I auditioned for all the top schools, like Juilliard and Yale, UCLA's drama school program, a bunch of schools in London, and I got into USC. And so I treated that like, because I was an athlete, I treated that like, I was I was so serious. Like, it was 10 to 10. I was reading like 10 plays a week, watching 10 movies a week. And so when I graduated from that, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm an actor. I feel like I know what I'm doing. And so that was like, I graduated like 5 years ago, and I've been on shows and done movies, and now I create content. And I realized how important that drama school was to my creation of content too. Yeah.
I mean, that Jeff flexed earlier, but
I don't know.
that
man.
was a flex. I mean, not even the acting stuff. You said Berkeley. You said then you moved to New York.
I don't know. I say it's a flex because like he has a CPA. My parents would be so impressed by that. That's what I think of.
I have a feeling we'll be getting back to the parent approval thing
Of course.
in this conversation,
Of
but
course.
to kind of kick things off and bring it back, to why I'm meeting you both here today. Family Drive. I have 2 questions I ask to kind of kick off these interviews, and then do some follow-ups and bounce off of that. But the first thing I want to ask you both is, what does the Family Drive mean to you and to be a part of it today?
For me, seeing all, it's my first time, the UPRISERS Family Drive. It's second year, right? But even the second year, it was amazing to see all this whole community come together all at once. And then, some people might come here for like the charity work or maybe for the workshop or just to meet new people. But I think just having that event to have everyone come in for a little, to experience everything all at once, I think is very important. And sometimes just going to a charity event is not as like exciting for some people. So having this type of unique event is very unique. And for me, it's like me personally, it's hard for me to get out of my house. I'm like kind of a homebody. And so having this type of dynamic event makes me want to come out. And I think it makes me feel good, makes like feeling all these positive vibes from everyone. It means a lot to me to be able to feel that and kind of spread that happiness with one another. So it means a lot to be here.
Everything he said, but also like it's so important to be a part of a community.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm mixed. I'm African American and Chinese. I think growing up, I didn't feel that outside of my own household because people were like, "Well, you're not." I always felt like, "Oh yeah, you've heard this so many times," but like people who are mixed are like, "Oh, you're not black enough. You're not Chinese enough." But for me, being raised like super Chinese, I did, and I know so much about the culture. I never had anyone to share that with outside of my house because I didn't think that anyone would believe me or sort of accept me. So these past few years of creating content and showing who I am and finding my voice and sharing that unapologetically has brought me to this community of people who are the same, right? And what's funny is sometimes I'll meet other Chinese people and the Chinese Americans, and they'll be like, "Why do you know more about Chinese culture than me, or like know the language better than me?" And I'm like, I never thought that a Chinese person would say that to me,
Right.
because I always felt like I was not, like, no matter what I'd learned about Chinese culture, no matter how well I learned the language, that I was always beneath those other people that like looked. People said they looked Chinese.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, it's not that I don't look Chinese. It's just you've never seen a Chinese person like me before. It's a problem with representation. It's a problem with the understanding of what diversity looks like.
Yeah.
So this community, I feel completely accepted by, and the message behind the family drive is exactly that.
Yeah. When one of those first things you said really struck me, where you felt like you had to validate yourself as a Chinese American. You felt like you didn't belong, even though that's you.
Yeah.
So I can't only imagine like that, because not feeling black enough, not feeling Chinese enough, like I could only imagine like feeling that in yourself, not just with your acceptance to other groups, but feeling that within your own identity.
Yeah. I feel what I feel now too is that I am sharing this not just for me, but sharing it for other people that are going through similar situations that I'm going through in terms of identity, right? Like I'll get these messages that like make me hella emotional of people who aren't necessarily even black and Asian, but are just mixed, and they're in an environment that they feel like doesn't accept them, and they're like, thank you for showing me that like I actually don't need to get like the stamp of approval from other people to act like who I already am.
Yeah.
Like it's actually common sense.
Yeah.
All right.
But the environment sometimes will tell you who you will, if you're not careful, will tell you who you are, and you don't allow it to tell you who you are,
Yeah. Well, I feel the same way. Like as a Japanese American, growing up in my community, there were a decent amount of Asians in my community, but growing up I was with all the white kids, and I always felt like I needed to fit in.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone has that similar stories, like from elementary school to middle school. I didn't have any Asian representation in media, and that's when I realized when like Crazy Rich Asians came out, I'm like, whoa, this is like something changed inside me.
Yeah.
And then I started listening to like K-pop and more J-pop and kind of diving deep into my Japanese culture. And although I was able to speak Japanese as a kid because my parents taught me at a young age, I still had that trouble growing up of am I American or am I Japanese, and having that conundrum all throughout my life. And I think it's only been recent, maybe like late 20s or 30s, where I'm like really embracing, and it's because of people like Ryan and this community be like, you could be Japanese American, but both at the same time.
Right.
That's another thing, like looking at your content, I'm like, oh yeah, I've never really got to see this before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't see that growing up.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have Japanese Americans on TV
Right.
expressing who they really are, not like somebody wrote this stereotypical version of like who they think a Japanese American is and
Totally.
then making them act in it.
Right.
You know, like times have changed a lot.
Yeah.
I think social media usually sometimes gets a bad rap,
Mm-hmm.
but like it actually is a really powerful tool
Right.
for people to express themselves and then for other people to see themselves reflected.
Mm-hmm.
It's really lucky because, you know, through some of the creators I've met through Uprisers, I see that side of social media, of the empowerment of these
Yeah.
different voices you normally wouldn't hear.
Right.
And one thing about, you know, Asian Americans on screen or Japanese people on screen, my dad, you know, he's old school. Well, not super old school, he's actually pretty progressive, but like when it comes to media, he's like, The Last Samurai. That's the one. And it's like,
Yeah.
but it's Tom Cruise
Uh-huh.
as the white savior.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're seeing the culture. You're
Right.
seeing.
I
you
thought
know-
you, for some reason, I thought you said Seven Samurai.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that would have
That's-
worked. That would have worked
yeah.
quite a bit better. But
Yeah.
The Last Samurai, you know, it's like that was his. It still is like his movie.
Mhm.
But it's like, it's the white savior.
Right,
story, you
right,
know?
right. And even that movie, me and my whole family went out to go watch that in the
Yeah,
theater.
exactly,
I was like,
right?
It's not a bad movie,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a white savior.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, first question was the family drive. You both had really great responses, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm seeing kind of hinting at, you know, the next question I have, which is, when would you say your mental health journey began? And I feel like, especially when it came to identity, it sounds like it started early for you both. But, you know, I think you could say that it started around that time, but when would you say you were conscious of your mental health journey?
I would say in college
Mm.
when I was an athlete and then I got injured and I was no longer because I was like All-American Junior Olympic champion in track and field, and going into college I was like, I'm going to Olympics, I'm gonna go to London, I'm gonna compete. And then I got hurt, and then it's like, well, now my whole world, I don't know what I'm gonna
Yeah.
do because I can't come back.
Yeah.
I herniated disc in my spine. I
Oh,
slightly
man.
tore like my hamstring, and I just could not come back. Kept getting injured. Then your mind starts to be like, well, who the fuck am I? Who am I if I'm not an Olympic athlete? And this has been my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I think it really started then. But that, it wasn't into culture. Culture didn't come into the mental health aspect until like 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
The injury got me into the arts. Right? And I think the arts, how I viewed them before was like, I'm not the geeky ass theater kid, those geeky ass theater kids in high school. No. But then I realized like, oh, I probably had more in common with the theater kids than I did with the jocks. I just never allowed myself to actually accept that.
Yeah.
And then through the arts, it's been a very healing process for me, especially at USC, where we had to really dive into like who we were and accept all the parts of us, even the parts that we thought were rotten.
Yeah.
And the parts that I thought were rotten, sharing that in front of witnesses, you know, my classmates, and we did a solo show where we talked about like
Wow.
one of our traumatic experiences in life, and we had to share that.
Wow.
I was like, oh, I didn't die.
Mm.
And I feel better actually, because now I'm not carrying this burden that I thought was like, you know, Asians repressed a lot of their emotions. Like, I was like, oh, all these emotions that I was repressing, I realized that was not a big deal actually.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to answer your question, started when I got injured as an athlete, and then it's still continuing, but I feel like I've come so far, and it's no longer a stigma in my mind, and I'm not afraid to share what I've gone through with people, and I don't take myself that seriously either. It's always like there's always humor there too.
Yeah.
I don't just start break down crying. Like I'll laugh even sometimes when I get emotional, because I'm like, damn, like I really did not allow myself to feel these emotions before.
Yeah.
And now I do, and that's freeing and it's liberating. It's also kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a great
Yeah,
perspective.
that's amazing. For me, I think I've had social anxiety like issues ever since I was a kid. Very, very young. I still remember. I was a kid that never like raised my hands in class, and I was so timid, so always anxiety induced, like self-inflicted, like always like issues mentally all the time, and I thought it was just normal. I thought like everyone was going
You're
through it. Like, oh yeah, you're the kid that doesn't want to raise your hand, but there's always that other kid that gets to speak his mind very well. And then that was all through elementary, middle school, high school, college. And I just thought it was just my personality, and so I didn't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
And even through college, even after college, first job, I didn't do any like audit of my mental health for a very long time. But then I started to realize, like, me keeping everything to myself, because I'm very, even to this day, I keep a lot of things inside. But recently, in my late 20s, I'm starting to feel like your friend groups are becoming smaller, your friends and family are becoming more important, and if you just keep everything inside you, there's no real connection. And I'm starting to realize that, it's pretty late, like late 20s, and I'm starting to realize, oh man, it's like I can't keep everything inside me. And ever since I realized, like, oh, this is something I have to work on, and I think it's been a long journey that I just haven't really tackled. And I think a lot of Asians don't even tackle it in their whole life at all. And I'm thankful that I started at least. And I think more people, like, in the Asian community, I'm sure you said, like, the previous interviewees were like mental health therapists.
Yeah, they're both
like
therapists.
That, right?
Yeah,
and like people like them, I'm sure there weren't that many back in the day.
I didn't know any.
Right. And and I just recently been going to a therapist and stuff like that recently, and it's been really helpful, just like talking. And like I never had the opportunity to have like an undisrupted 1 hour talk, and getting like kind of forced to talk, and that has really helped kind of open my mind and kind of like start my mental health journey in that way.
right. Yeah, it's interesting because with the last group, Yellow Chair Collective, they're a collective of Asian therapists that specialize in Asian clients, right? And when they first started it, the creator, Linda, they were told, like, it's not going to happen. There's not enough clients out there. But it's just because, like, what they said, and I think what we're kind of noticing as we all, like, kind of mature and come to terms with mental health, is that the need is there. We just kind of don't have the words to describe it, I feel like. So one thing I could really resonate with is the social anxiety. I didn't know at a young age that me always tapping my leg or my inability to sleep because my brain would never shut off, like those things are all anxiety, but you're not really taught that verbiage or that's what it means. You always think of it as the chest tightness. That's what you always think anxiety is, but it comes out in so many different ways. So for both of you, like when it comes to putting yourselves out there, because I could tell that you guys like when it comes to putting yourselves out there, like how do you kind of have the confidence, or how do you get past the anxiety, or do you just kind of have to fight through it,
Man, that idea was with me all through high school, college, and after just my first job. Like, I need to get out of this shell. And I was so stuck in like, oh, I gotta just be within myself, be like nervous all the time. And then one day I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to a Toastmasters.
I've heard.
Public speaking.
Yes.
And I just signed up with I live in Koreatown, so there's a Koreatown group of Toastmasters. And I literally forced myself to sign up. Even just like signing up was really hard. And then once that email comes in, it's like, oh, you're signed up, you better come. And then I went the first time, and my armpits were sweating. And I was like, all the reactions were coming. And then the first Toastmasters, I didn't say a single word. Like, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't. And then it took like 3 or 4 sessions to kind of, there's like a way, they help you, because the least you could do is just like say your name, and that like kind of helps you get over that hump. And just being able to do that, it like changed my thinking. It's like, oh, you survived one Toastmaster, you survived 2 Toastmasters.
It feels like you're surviving.
Yeah, surviving.
Yes.
And then that really helped me gain the confidence to be like, okay, if someone asks me to do a public speaking, I have a better understanding of my feeling, my social anxiety. So okay, I just have to get over that fact and start. Even like this podcast, like I was nervous, but I think that's like a healthy nervousness. But I'm confident like I could come in here and like talk.
It's not a debilitating nervousness, which was like what I had before too. I used to have panic attacks before I would post content.
Oh, really?
Not even like there's no one there. Like, I would have panic attacks.
I feel like that's the most.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when you would have the most, because you're alone. It feels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you don't have anyone to bounce that idea off of.
Yeah,
I feel like, sorry to interrupt.
No,
I feel like
you're
that's
not
valid.
interrupting.
That's totally valid.
I was so, and as an Asian, like, you want to save face all the time.
Yes.
And you want to, like, you actually care so much about what other people think. And I
Yeah.
think that, like, that male stoicism,
Mhm.
and maybe not even just male stoicism, just stoicism in the Asian community
Mhm.
comes from that.
Mhm.
It doesn't come from, like, I'm actually strong.
Right.
Right,
You know,
right.
I mean, some people have seen some shit and gone through some shit, but it's like a lot of it, I think, is based off of like, don't show them anything
Right.
Mhm.
because then you won't be embarrassed, and then they'll think that you're strong.
Yeah.
But like, are you actually strong? I don't know. So I had the same thing. Like I forced myself to take a public speaking class 2 semesters
Mhm.
at Berkeley when I went to Berkeley, and that was the most nervous I've ever been in my whole life. And then I went to drama school. And then I had to like, dude, the way that it manifests in my body is I start shaking.
Mm.
And I would be shaking and trying to like cover it up that I'm shaking. And it would just keep getting worse. And I remember my teacher said he had the same thing happen to him. He's like, you just got to accept it.
Mhm.
You got to accept that you're shaking. And he's like, once you start to accept it and accept the fear, and then you sort of go through that and you still do the thing that you're supposed to do and you survive that, you just get more and more used to it. It's just like anything. It's
Right.
like basketball players. Like, the more you practice free throws, the better you get at it. So that made me understand that, like, oh, you just keep going
Keep
through
going,
it.
Yeah.
And, like, at least now I have the idea that, like, I'm going to get better at it.
Mhm.
Right.
Before, I was just like, it's always going to be this way. Or I can't even think about the future because I'm just so worried about
Mhm.
how bad this is going to go. And, like, now it's just like, oh, I'm shaking.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, it's crazy because it's weird because when I do the thing, I'm just going to be myself and it's
Yeah.
fine.
Right.
I also think that learning how to be myself and learning that that's okay, and even if I do say something embarrassing, to accept it in the moment and to admit it and be like, yeah, that was kind of
Yeah,
embarrassing.
I'm working on that part.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's hard.
And then you
getting
just,
there.
but the thing, another thing too is like the stopping the elongation of the feeling of embarrassment and the feeling of like beating down on yourself for something that you just said.
Mhm.
It's just like,
Right.
accept that you said that shit.
Right.
Accept that it was embarrassing in the moment. Call it out for everyone to see, and then keep pushing.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
it's helped me so much, and now I just don't really get nervous. But when I do get nervous, I'm still like, oh, I'm fine.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fine. And even if someone starts to see it, then I'll just say it. I'm nervous.
Mhm.
I'll just say it out loud.
Right.
I'll be like, I'm literally shaking right now because I'm with this person that is a hero of mine and I'm on a panel. This is crazy. Okay. But I'm going to get through this. I
Right.
hope.
Right.
You know?
And most of the time we get through it. Like,
get through
at the
it.
end
Most of the
day,
time you-
Like, what do you
Every time you have-
What's
you're
going to
just-
happen?
yeah,
We're
what's
going to
gonna
burst
happen?
into
Yeah.
flames? Are we going to,
It
pass
always,
out?
it always works out.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think that teacher gave you amazing advice because that's something I've learned through therapy. Is it's like I went to therapy hoping to get rid of anxiety.
Yeah.
She was like, "Sorry, but that's
Yeah.
not
That's
how
not how
it
it
works."
works.
It's like sometimes you have to learn that on occasion anxiety is a good thing.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's like, oh, if I'm anxious about this presentation, this meeting, this discussion, I need to prep more. That's what it's
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
Right.
That's true too. Yeah.
If it's about an event that we're hosting, that means maybe I need to go through the steps, make sure we have everything set. So sometimes it could be a good thing. Sometimes it is debilitating. But like learning to turn it into action or learning to live with it, as you said,
Yeah.
it could go. You just have to kind of figure out what works for you and how to turn it into
Yeah.
something, or
Mhm.
just maybe reduce it so it's not the debilitating type of.
That's the
Right,
most
right.
courageous thing that I see is like people continue going forward with doing something even though they're like insanely anxiety stricken and nervous and
Right.
shaking. Like
Yeah.
that is the most
Right.
courageous shit that I
And most of the time, like the person who's talking who's scared is thinking, oh, like the people that are watching me, oh,
Yeah.
they're gonna hate me.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh, I'm
yeah.
stupid looking.
and they don't
but
think either way.
Either
you know,
way,
just
it's like, oh man, this
just
person
listen.
is gutsy and
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know.
So speaking of that, because that's something like, let's say it's a stand-up comic, that's someone that you're talking directly to. But for you both, when it comes specifically to social media, because I know you do in-person stuff too, but when it comes to
Yeah.
social media, there's hate comments. But
Oh yeah.
what's I feel like what's because I want to discuss that maybe, but like
Yeah.
I feel like the stuff that you say to yourself is probably way more brutal than what people are saying to you, right?
Oh my god, that's so true.
Yeah.
I will literally say out loud by myself when I start talking shit to myself. I'll be like, stop doing that. I'll say that out
Oh
loud.
no.
Because I'm just like, what are you doing, man?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
why are you talking shit to yourself?
Right.
You know? But it's so ingrained, I think, in a lot of us that
Right.
if you don't check that voice,
Yeah.
it'll turn into something. And I think that's the value of community too, because I could have a conversation with you about how I was talking shit to myself, and you'd be like, I do the same thing, and I'd be like, oh, we should probably not do that, right? But at least I'm not alone. But I do get, I don't know, you get hate comments?
Not
Not
much,
really?
yeah, but I'm sure
I get
you
so mad.
you get
Really? Because I'm talking about like race.
Oh.
And I'm talking about like affirmative action, and I'm talking about sometimes. I
Oh
do.
no! Imagine you talking about your own experience.
Yeah, but it's different now than it was before. I remember when I first, like, I made a whole. The reason why I even started creating content was because BLM was happening during COVID and Stop Asian Hate, and then they started beefing with each other, and I saw so many Black people and Asian people arguing with each other.
Right.
And like saying vile things to each other, and I was like, guys, what are you doing? Like, I'm here, I'm both, and I coexist with my family. Like, so I talked about anti-Blackness in the Asian community, and I called out like the Asian community for their anti-Blackness, and I said, like, if you guys feel some type of way about that, just know, and you try to attack me, just know that you're attacking a fellow Asian,
Right.
and like you're racist. And I thought that post would actually get like 99% like hate, but it was like 99% support from the Asian community, and then 1% people calling me the N-word and saying I'm a monkey, and I responded to every single one of those comments, which was not healthy because there was like 20,000 comments. And I remember sometimes it would work, and someone sent like this video of these two Black guys harassing this Asian woman at a counter at their store, and he's like, you're the kind of bitch that wouldn't stand up for this woman. And I was like, I would, and I would stand up for you even though you called me a bitch, I would still stand up for you. Yeah. He was shook. He's like, oh. I'm like, who do you think you're talking to? Like, why? And then I started realizing in their brains that they already see me as a certain type of way before I even have said anything. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, well, that's not actually his fault. That's not actually these people's fault. How can I attack it at the source? And how can I educate people to show them that, like, this idea of what a Black person is to them is actually not real. It's been conditioned into them. And really, it's just like showing me enjoying my time with my little Chinese grandma. Yeah. And they're like, what the fuck?
Those are awesome videos.
Yeah, and they're just like, huh? And I never thought that could be like revolutionary, that could be transformative for people in their minds. And I'm like, oh, it's not actually that hard to create content and to create content that matters, especially when you finally embrace who you are and you want to show that you're not afraid to. Right. You know?
So, I mean, I think we're good on time, but to bring it kind of together again, because, you know, what you're both talking about in your stories, and then I know you guys are talking later today at Family Drive, but what brings you both together here at Family Drive? Like, why are we putting you both in the same room with me for some reason? Like, what is your work together?
Work together.
I mean, when I met Jeff, we instantly connected. I don't know if I can articulate necessarily why. Well, I can. I mean, it's like we both are in the same space. We're both in, yeah, I definitely can. We're both in the same space of sort of creating content, but not all influencers are the same.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, some people do this.
We could name drop, but obviously,
yeah, I'm not gonna name no names.
For sure.
But it's like when I meet an influencer who is grounded and who's doing these things for like self-discovery and sort of like uplifting their community, and that's important to them. It's an immediate connection, and that's how I felt when I met Jeff. Right.
And I think we have the same life experiences in terms of like growing in an Asian family in America, and kind of connecting in those little aspects of life, and going to like a good school, and then trying to figure out what you want to do, appease your parents, and then want to do your artistic goals and do all these things. And I feel like whenever we talk, we're like, oh yeah, I felt the same way. Oh yeah, I did the same thing after college. And it's this connection that I really feel with Ryan, and a lot of the people here that I meet. It's like always so many like similarities within one another.
I guess it's like when you ask that question, it's almost like, I don't know, but it's actually, we say that because this has never existed before. right? Not because we don't actually have anything in common and that we're really connected. We've just never had a space like this where people like us can come together.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just
And
talk about it,
Yeah,
right?
talk
Yeah.
about it and it not be a superficial thing, which is like, I can't be in those situations. I don't like being in those environments where it's just like, you have a bunch of followers and you do too. Talk.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have anything in common with this person.
Right.
This is just a person who also has followers and creates content. Like,
Right.
you didn't do any time, like, due diligence to understand what we care about. Like,
I feel like I've seen some of those weird ones. But my favorite is like on TikTok now. They do like they'll put people head to head on these lives. It'll be like the NPC girl versus like a cook creator.
Yeah.
You see who could get the most donations. And it's like
Really?
I'm like, see, like that's for content. That's funny because it's so
Uh-huh.
random. But then I'll see some of these like these panels where they put those people together on purpose. You know, so it's just like
yeah.
it's hard to find those types of people.
Mhm.
So, but with that, like, what are you guys going to be presenting on later today?
Using social media for good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I'll be talking about how to get started, more of the practical side of
Yeah.
social media, how to get started,
Right.
Whether it's creating content, starting a new business, a career change,
Yeah.
in that aspect.
But also, you're going to talk about overcoming sort of like the barriers mentally, emotionally,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Right.
So, I think with that, like, I think us, using social media for good. There's so much going on, where I feel like you kind of have to pick your battles, right?
Mhm.
So how do you pick not pick your battles because you want to fight for justice for all, right?
Mhm.
But it's like, how do you decide, like, you know what, I really need to say something on this. I really need to say something on that.
I think when I get an emotional reaction,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
a legit emotional reaction, then
Yes.
I have to say something. If
Right.
it's kind of passing, then maybe I might not say something because maybe I'm not ready for it, or I'm not articulate enough to say something about it. But when it's like an emotion comes up deep inside me, then it's like, all right, it's ready to go.
Yes.
Let me say something.
Yes.
And that in part kind of heals me, that I said something out loud and do something about it. And that's probably when I do say something about when the emotion comes up.
Same. Like, I gotta feel it. I gotta be passionate about it.
Right.
I have to care about it.
Mhm.
And if I don't, I'm like, why am I talking about it?
Yeah.
then? You know?
Is it hard to ever find the balance between, like, it's a business, right?
Right.
Mhm.
But it's also like, this is truly what I feel. Like,
Yeah.
is it hard to find a balance between those two things?
I would say there's always a way to talk about the issue from a human
Mm.
place, from a compassionate place.
Yeah.
Like, you can always address some aspect of that issue
Yeah.
in a way that is universal, and you're also passionate and care about it.
Mhm.
You don't have to take a side. Like, I am the CEO of trying to find where there's no sides, because I'm mixed. And
Right.
especially in LA, like, the Asian community and the Black community have had contention with each
Right.
other, but not in my household, not amongst my friend groups.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, there is this idea that they should, because it's been conditioned on us through media,
Totally.
and you know what I mean. So I'm like, but that's not the truth.
Mhm.
So when I am approaching any situation, I'm like, what's the fucking truth?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you the truth, and I'm gonna tell it from a human perspective.
Yeah.
You know.
We did get the 5 minute sign, but
Yeah.
what's on the horizons for you both? What is there anything to plug? Is there anything you want to make sure you say? Because I didn't ask many. I don't know if I answered enough questions, but is there anything else you need to?
Not much.
I don't know.
Just keep on grinding on the content train, which is another topic. It's
Yeah.
just a deep, endless pit
Yeah.
for creating content, which is.
Oh wait, what were we talking about outside? We were like, oh, we could probably talk. Did we talk about that?
Oh, it's like the
Yes.
honeymoon phase of creating content.
Yes.
And once that
That's something that
over,
we could talk about in the
That's
last
awesome.
5 minutes, like
was it?
obsessing over the metrics.
Right. It's
Right?
what was it? The
Oh.
social media, the burnout type of.
Oh, yeah,
The
burnout.
burnout type of. And I was thinking about it this morning, and I was like, I'm like, for me, I do a ton of numbers on my content, and so since I was in accounting, I love numbers. Like, so I have spreadsheets of all my content,
Oh shit!
and then I've been tracking my growth and my metrics since day one.
Wow.
And then this month was my first month where I lost followers overall, and I'm like, all right, this is the honeymoon phase is over of my content growing, and I'm sure there's there's going to be upsides and the downside after this, but just like the growth is over, like the big growth is over, and so I feel this like pressure of like needing to continue to create.
You're not alone, buddy.
Yeah, right. And, it's like, and whenever I talk about other creators, like, yeah, dude, this is normal, but you have to find a mindset that works for you, because all creators go through this, and some people, they quit of the burnout of continuing, but you need to find a way to progress through this like downside, because there's a lot of ups and downs. Like content has really highs, very low lows.
Yes.
And being able to get past that is so important.
I think also it's like if you're checking your metrics every day, which is what I did for a long time, you don't see any actual growth. Because it's like you're always like, oh well, I was growing at this rate last time. Now I'm growing at this smaller rate, but you're still growing. But to me, I'm like, no. How do I keep continuing to grow at an increasing rate and not a decreasing rate? I think that is like also a conditioning of American society on us too. Right?
It always
has to be better than the last quarter.
Right.
Not even the last year, the last quarter.
Yeah. Totally.
And so for me, I'm like really letting go of that more and more, and leaning more into the community, and leaning into like partnering with like creators who I care about and making content with them, or not even necessarily making content, making it less about the content and making it more about my personal growth, and then sharing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember these I guess 6 months ago, I grew like 40,000 followers, and the most depressing time for me was when it was actually like during it and when it stopped.
Right. Yeah.
Because during it, I'm like, oh my god, how do I maintain this?
Yeah.
How do I continue to grow? I gotta think about then it's not even about your content anymore. It's about like riding a trend train.
Right.
And then when it stops, you're like, should I quit? I'm
Right.
never gonna grow again. It doesn't matter. It's like, bro, you have so many followers.
Right. And you create content you don't want to create.
Yeah, but once you get there, once you plateau, it's like you still have all those followers that you're still speaking to.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, why do you need new ones? You have a huge community now.
Right.
How do you take care of those followers? Yeah. How do you strengthen that community instead of just growing it? And what I've found is like when I start to strengthen it, I'm strengthening myself, I'm strengthening my community, and those people. It's just a byproduct that shouldn't really focus on, because it's not the point. But those people will tell other people. Those people will share your stuff because it's coming from your heart and their heart. Yeah. And they're like, I genuinely want other people to know about this. Yeah. I genuinely want this curator to grow, and I want his message to be heard by other people. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I focus on that. I don't really focus so much on growth. It feels good, but that temptation to like lean into it,
it's very
bad. It could end up really
very bad. Yeah.
And that's like could deteriorate your mental health, right? Like numbers are numbers; they don't need to be your emotions.
Yeah. Well, we're about out of time. We did link both your socials, so maybe we'll see if that helps. But
grow.
Thank you guys both so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm looking forward to hopefully I'll be able to jump into you guys' session. But, thank you guys so much. I think the people I've been able to talk to through Family Drive has been awesome. So I appreciate you both taking the time.
You did a great job too, man.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It's not easy.
So much. Yeah,
that's not easy, dog.
Yeah.
Hosting is not easy.
Especially podcast is rough.
I'm sorry, I've been like bouncing back and forth between.
I didn't even notice.
Okay, well, we'll be back in about 5 minutes with our final group. But that's about it, guys. I'm just gonna thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Alrighty, we are back with our last group for our last interview of today. Appreciate everyone who's been tuning in. I was told that my computer was covering my face, which is why it's a little slanted for the viewer, but we'll make it work. But we have a really great group to kind of close it out today. We're really excited to talk to all three of you, and I know you guys just flew in this morning, so
Yeah.
we'll do our best to keep the energy up. But I kind of just want to start by everyone introducing yourselves. We can go down
Do
the
we
line.
start?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. I'm Michelle K. Hanabusa, founder, creative director of UPRISERS, and yeah, excited for you guys to all experience Family Drive round 2
Yeah.
today. So
Great.
Hi, I'm Julian Rashid Noah, and I am the founder of Eye Candy. And I'm just an overall creative graphic designer, visual artist.
Great.
And my name is Josh, Joshua Daly, and I'm the owner of Amuse, which is a creative studio based in Columbus, Ohio.
That's awesome. So I mentioned a flight earlier. Where did you both come in from?
Columbus, yeah.
Ohio.
Yeah, so it's
Hometown.
super cool. And Michelle, do you want to maybe introduce like why they flew in today?
yeah, so this is actually our first time meeting today.
Yeah.
We've been on email, we've been on text. I talked to your mom. But the reason why we got connected was because I met someone during my last New York trip. And learning about his organization that he started, co-started,
Yeah.
Columbus Fashion Alliance. We spent the whole week together and just really understanding his program, what he built, what his mission is about. Which is to make sure that there's opportunities in fashion and design and like merchandising for folks in Columbus.
Right.
And it really moved me. And when I met him earlier this year, I was like, I don't know if we can work together, but there's some synergy happening, and let's continue to talk. And so as we started to build out the programming for Family Drive this year, I was like, yo, we got to do something. And that's kind of how it started. And
Very cool.
I think it's a really, really great way to not only get LA designers to come together, right? But like, let's expand beyond that. So you guys are here today, and following suit, there was a designer that also got involved from Iowa. And this was through the Right House, which is a very similar program to what you guys are part of. And then Atlantic Records.
Wow.
So it was really cool. It's like folks from Iowa and Ohio like are represented today.
I'm going to move this really quick because I noticed it's a little bit in frame. But for both, I think just to kind of lead now into why we're all here today, Family Drive, I'll start on this end. But what does it mean to you to like be here at Family Drive at this event?
Man, I feel like being here means a lot to me personally, just because my whole goal with the Muse is just to provide resources for the next generation to do what they love and do it well.
That's great.
So just like aligning myself with something that's progressing the youth and helping out the communities and stuff like that is very important to me to kind of stay on top of that. I think the more we reinvest into the younger generation, the stronger we get as a whole. Whether that's support with mental health, or whether it's talking, whether it's just, hey, I like your shirt. Like, it could be really anything, but just any type of joy that I can bring to anyone that's coming up or looking to be inspired, I'd love to do that. So that's why I'm here.
One thing I noticed is you're putting my pearls to shame, so I'm going to tuck them away. But what about you? Like, what does it mean to be here at Family Drive?
Yeah, honestly, like when I first heard about it, I didn't really know what was going on when Yogi was telling me, but like obviously when I got more information and background about you guys and all that stuff, I really enjoyed you guys' values, and I noticed how like you guys were different from all the other brands, where you guys made community your thing, and it kind of aligned with my kind of vision with even my own brand, where I want to build a community that feels unbothered and unbounded by the norms, and kind of just express themselves creatively. And so I feel like this event as a whole just kind of reminds me of that, and I realign with that a lot. So
That's great. Now, Michelle, as the founder of UPRISERS and the leader of Family Drive, what does it mean to have your second annual Family Drive today?
I'm a lot less stressed today
That's great.
compared to last year. I think last year I was like literally pulling my hair
Mm.
until the very end. Not to say that, it wasn't a successful event, but I think we just learned a lot from it because it takes a lot of like power, like human power
Mhm.
to like run all of the things, that are going on. But at the end of the day, it's about connection,
Yeah.
like human connection, and how can we get together in one space to do something that's bigger than ourselves.
Mhm.
And I think, I would love to be doing this all year round.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, at least there's one moment in a year where all folks who want to volunteer and do some good and do something bigger than ourselves and like still make connections, still have fun
Mhm.
while doing it, is a great way to do it at the end of the year.
I agree. I think especially because at the end of the year, a lot of people are slowing down, but to kind of kick off the new year with an event like this and kind of close out, and at the same time close out a year with something like this and bring people together that people you'd never meet in other circumstances, I think is super awesome. You already touched on it, but with mental health being a big part of changing tides and also a really high importance for uprisers. The other question I've been asking everyone aside the Family Drive question is, when do you think your mental health journey began? And then you're both so young. I'm like, for me, I think I was familiar with mental health really like my senior year of high school. But like, when would you say your mental health journey began?
I think I noticed like signs in my mental health pretty early on, just due to the fact I started designing when I was around 12.
Oh wow.
So I was taking on a lot of different pressure from a lot of different areas, dealing with clients, trying to figure out how to run a business by myself and try and build up from there. So it got pretty overwhelming at first, I would say, but I don't think I necessarily acknowledged the fact that I was going through something. Probably until I was around 15, where I kind of like solidified what I really wanted to do. I was focused on mastery and stuff like that. And I kind of just found more peace in just knowing myself and knowing what I can and cannot do at the time. And, we're not robots. We can't do any and everything.
Right.
So just taking it one step at a time, really understand myself, working, and just seeing the results of that. Yeah.
So you said you had clients when you were 12?
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's unbelievable.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So what did that look like for you? Because like, I feel like for me even, I mean, I'm only 25, but I started working with Changing Tides when I was 23. But even certain clients that we work with, they're like, oh, they found out I'm young, right? I'm on the younger side. Not as young as you guys, but I'm on the younger side. And they immediately would be kind of like, oh, where's the supervisor? Where's the person at the head of you?
Right.
So like, yeah, right? Like, I'm sure you still deal with that. So like, how was that for you at that time?
Man, it was crazy. I actually remember the first time Yogi hit me up to kind of work with the Columbus Fashion Alliance. It was in like the early stages. I was about 16.
Wow.
I was building my portfolio up on Dribble. And he was like, hey, I love your work. Can we sit down and talk about a project? And it just so happened to be the Columbus Fashion Alliance. And I got connected through that. But I think it was an odd time for me because I felt like I wasn't necessarily working enough. Because I kept doing things that came very easy to me. And it was fun, like, oh, I can just design. I'll do at the time I think I was doing esports. I was playing a lot of games at the time. So I was connected to those communities a lot. But I started working in that, and I was like, okay, this is fun. I can make some money. I can buy some more games, show off to my cousins or whatever, and I'll be set. But I think it just really just started off of me trying to do something new.
Right.
I feel like I shouldn't be as shocked as I am, just because I'm aware of how early mental health issues arise with kids and how quickly pressures start with young people. Like, I think the average age of when people start to see mental health issues arise is 14 years old. So it's like, it's younger than what you both are mentioning. So it's like, I shouldn't be as shocked as I am. I think it's just like, to hear that you didn't think you were working enough at that time. But like, it comes to fruition in different ways for people. So I think that actually, I shouldn't be as shocked as I am, because that makes a lot of sense. But Julian, for you, like, what about you and your mental health journey? When would you say it began? And I know you're younger, but it's like you're still under a lot of pressures, I'm sure. So what's it been like for you?
Yeah, definitely a similar story to Josh. I started designing at 13. and having clients and all that stuff like that. But similarly, like, it's the comparing. I'm at a young age. I'm also have this mindset of, oh, I want to be one of the best. I'm always comparing myself to other designers who've been in the field for like 20 plus years. They've been mastering, and I'm just a 13-year-old kid. I'm constantly like trying to prove myself to myself though. And so I guess that was my first moment, I guess, in just trying to like my mental health. And I think that's something I've been like, or starting to kind of let go of, which is trying to stop comparing myself to other people, and like trying to realize that everyone has their own time of things, and everyone processes things slower or faster than everyone else. And so I think that's kind of where my mental health started. I think and also like being exposed to more people and especially more people in my field, kind of also helped me, I guess, grow and evolve a little bit more, because before, as a 13-year-old kid, I'm into like anime, skateboarding, clothes, and all that stuff. But yeah, I was kind of myself because I live in like where we're from. I live in like a small town. It's like not really a city or whatever. It's not really big, and there's not really that much art stuff. So I kind of did it on my own. I've always been the best artist in my school. Blah 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 blah. I've always been a little bit more independent. But this past summer, after meeting Yogi and the Columbus Fashion Alliance and kind of getting connected with them, I've met a lot of creative people. One of those people is Josh, Greg, other different people there that I met that are all in this field. And I didn't think these people like really existed, like people like me existed like that, Or I mean, I did know, but I just didn't know they were around my environment. And so when I got connected with them, I guess it helped me become better as a person and as a designer, because I guess they made me more comfortable in where I'm at. I'm 13 or I'm 16 years old. At the time, I was 16 years old. I need to let go of that. Stop trying to compare yourself to all these people, because there's other people like me who are all trying to come up together. And like I said, everyone has their own pace. So I guess that kind of helped me understand that, and I'm growing from that, honestly, for real.
So, I think Michelle could attest to this. When you're from California, you only know California. So, like, when I look at
Or
the rest,
just LA.
yeah, or just literally just LA. If I look at the rest of the country and you told me just to name each state, it would be tough. But I am familiar with Ohio. I went to visit a friend, and you're talking about the cities you're from. I'm just curious, how far or close are you to like Gambier, Ohio? Kenyon College?
I don't even know.
Okay. It's that's middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
Like,
that sounds like it's probably near like Chillicothe or something around there.
But you guys were close to the city of Columbus,
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
Okay, so this was like an hour drive from Columbus. Like, I don't know which direction, but it was kind of near Columbus. But
I will say, like, I don't think a lot of people that stay in Columbus tend to typically go out to the neighboring little cities unless they have family there.
got it.
But yeah, I would say another thing I would like to add, just growing up, when you focus on your craft a lot, you tend to like do a lot of different things than the kids you see around you.
Totally.
So it definitely gets hard when you feel like you're an alien in your friend group because you're doing this, and you don't have time to hang out. You don't have time to do regular kid things. So I honestly thank Columbus Fashion Lines for connecting me with people that are like-minded, so I can be around those people that can build me up and not feel like I'm leaving them out of a conversation or I can't speak a certain way. So I really do appreciate the connection between all of that and merging it all together.
Like I definitely understand that, because I at a time I was like trying all these things just besides art and stuff like that, but I was kind of trying to do things just kind of like to fit in, because I realized like where I'm from, or just the type of environment I was in with other kids, like not everyone was doing what I was doing. And so it felt kind of weird, and it took some time for me to get more comfortable with my creative self, and just kind of like I would say, rebrand myself or put myself out there more as a artist and a creative, because it wasn't like a cool thing or around my friends or like elementary school, middle school, even high school, honestly. So I've learned to like kind of be myself, have that part of me be a part of me, you know. So yeah.
So the reason why I asked about if you were familiar with Gambier, Ohio, and if that was like a similar city to where you guys are from, is because I think, I mean, it's common. Like people move to LA to try to get these types of opportunities. So for you, like, was it hard to see the path forward from the cities that you guys were from, and like how did you continue to be persistent regardless of not being from like Los Angeles or New York?
You can go first.
I think honestly, it's just kind of realizing what type of environment you're in. I think for most people, Columbus is like a very nice place to live and really like enjoy life. Um, I think it can get a little bit harder to find people that can kind of help you get to where you need to get out there. But I think just thinking of it differently for me really helped a lot in terms of, okay, this is more of a place where there isn't a whole bunch of noise going on, so I can really sit down and focus, get things working in the shadows, and then bring that to light. So I feel like the way we look at the environments that we're in can kind of shift how we kind of work in them as well. I think even, I want to say, maybe 2 years ago, I was thinking like this is the worst place in the world. I was like, I need to get out of here.
Literally,
like, I need someone to help me. And then I had
feel
to
that
sit there. I
about
was like,
LA sometimes.
I'm not helping anyone else though. Like I was like, I can't expect to be helped if I can't provide anything to help other people.
Wow.
Right.
So I just had to sit back and was like, okay, what can we do to like really change the way things are?
Yeah.
And not just like how people see it, but how things are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because being from Columbus, like he said, like there's not really, I would say, people like us aren't really represented in, I guess, the culture of Columbus. Like we're here, but it's not in the surface, not really shown. And so when people say, "Oh, did you know Columbus is the third fashion house, blah, blah, or fashion like capital or whatever in the United States?" People are like, "Wow, really?" Like no one knows though, you know what I'm saying? So it's definitely that, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, and just to add to that, that's what Yogi kept on saying in New York, right? He was like, did you guys know that Columbus is the third largest fashion house outside of LA and New York?
And most people would never guess.
People have no idea. So it's like, they have the infrastructure. There's so much like history behind it. And it's like being able to utilize that and like bring up this next generation to have access to all of that. I was like, people need to know this.
Yeah.
So,
It's really important.
Michelle, what has anything that has been said resonate with you in terms of, feeling like you're not working enough, or starting at a young age, or the thief of joy that comparison is? Like, does any of what has been said relate to you?
Yeah, I think on so many levels. I feel I did not start I didn't start designing until later because I didn't know that was a path for me. I didn't even know that was an opportunity or like a way that you can make money off of. Because growing up as an Asian American, it's like you have to be one of like a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, and that's just your path. And then you have to start working in corporate and get like a really good 9-to-5 with 401k. That's kind of the path, and that's all that you know about. And there wasn't social media. I'm a lot older than both of you, so there wasn't social media to be like, well, there's all these really cool kids and I resonate with them, available for me. So I started to morph myself to care about or get excited about things that I actually didn't care about. My friends were not creative at all, and so I didn't even exercise those things for a really, really long time. I think I hid it. And I think that's why I was so unhappy. But again, around the conversations around mental health, we didn't have the tools or we didn't have the language to talk about it, right? Like it was very stigmatized, and it's like, if you don't feel well or you don't, there weren't any resources to like reach out to. So I think it took me a hot minute to be like, it's okay to not be okay. There's other people that are going through the same things. Like, let's talk about it. So I did the whole route of like entering into the creative field in like a corporate setting, and I was so unhappy. I was like, this isn't how you exercise your creativity. And so I just started to do side projects, and that's when I felt like not only my voice was being heard, but then I was like, there are so many other people that feel this way. Let's make sure that our voices and our creativity is being seen.
I don't remember which, or you. I think you both kind of touched on feeling like an alien or feeling like the other. Especially when you start at such a young age, you know, you're kind of, you don't discover that later on. You discover that early on in school with the people you're growing up with. Did you ever like get almost talked out of pursuing the arts, or like how did you stay persistent in pursuing your craft?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first because a similar situation with Michelle. I come from an African background, and so similarly, when you come to America, you know, it's those 4 jobs: doctor, accountant, lawyer, blah blah blah. You know, and so I guess at the beginning, like, I guess my family wasn't really too sure about it until like I really started showing, like, I'm really passionate about it, and that's kind of what helped me push like myself. Like I knew I was good at art. I've always known I was good at art, but I didn't really process that until maybe 2 years ago. Honestly,
Really?
2 years ago, and so I don't know really. I guess I would say it's just me liking the. I was just naturally gravitated towards arts, and I guess that's what pushed me to like continue to keep on doing it. I don't know, when I realized like I was really good and that like I really have potential, that even made me more fueled to just create and make um, things that I like, things that gravitated towards me. And so yeah, that's where I kind of get the whole creative freedom thing. Like, I feel like creative freedom is one of my main goals in just life. I want to have the ability to just create things and make them come to life. And it's one of the most satisfying things, honestly. You're designing something on a piece of paper, transfer it to the computer, and then get with manufacturers and all that stuff, and then you actually get to hold the product. I feel like that's one of the most satisfying things ever, and that's what pushes me to continue to go and grow and elevate myself within this field and just in general.
I think for me, I really have to just give a lot of props to my parents. I think growing up, my whole family, honestly, I like to call them the Incredibles because I feel like we all just do certain things. But I mean, I've seen my brother growing up just pursue music production and really teach himself how to do it himself. And even my dad, he started his own personal training, and he started doing another venture. So I was always seeing things being made in front of me. A lot of creative stuff too. My grandma used to always play piano. My grandpa was an artist. So I just took in all of the things that I kind of saw. I was like, okay, well, I like drawing. I've always liked drawing. I'm gonna try and figure out like a way for me to draw, but in a way that translates my voice. So I do typically do a lot of digital work. And then I was like, okay, I like music, but everyone in my family knows how to play piano. I don't want to be the same as everyone else. I'll be a DJ. So it's just like, I guess answering the questions that I used to ask myself a lot is like, okay, when do I want to do this?
Yeah.
And then finding the time to finish what I am doing to get to that part, and then master that, and then move on to the next using the skills that I learned from those.
Kind of bringing it back to all 4 of us being here today at Family Drive. You know, what has stood out about the creators and the community that's here today for you both?
I think it's just the energy. Like, I don't think I've seen a group of people kind of like seem so excited just to be here. I don't know. It's an unreal experience for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll say similar thing. Just the vibe is just, it's different. Honestly, it's like I like how we're just in a space where we're all just different creatives from different backgrounds, and we're all here for the same thing, you know, which is to bring the community, help the community, while also promoting ourselves and just, I guess, expressing creativity, like merging our passions to
Yeah.
do a good thing. You know, that's like really different, I would say, because I've never experienced it in Columbus.
Mm.
Besides the Columbus Fashion Alliance, which recent, like it's like I'm saying, it's a recent thing that I've just um, got to be a part of. So yeah, I really enjoy the vibe, the energy, everyone, the people, the community. It's amazing.
Well, get your high school diploma first, but then I assume that I assume the move is on your radar. I'm guessing. I don't want to.
Here?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
Um,
You come
I-
hang
I
out
love-
for a couple of days.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm just an East Side person. Honestly, like I love the East Side. I've always loved the East Side. I've always gravitated since I was a kid. I've always gravitated towards New York. So I'm aiming to go to school in New York and
Nice.
all that stuff like that.
Sir.
I'll be around both areas. I don't discriminate.
Got it, got it.
I love traveling.
You know, I haven't asked. I should have asked this way before, but like, what can you tell me more about the Columbus Fashion Alliance and what that is and what that means?
Yeah, so basically the Columbus Fashion Alliance is a network. Well, we meet up in a building called the Idea Foundry. It's a co-working space.
Nice.
They have a production lab, a design lab, and different resources for creatives to come and learn how to, whether you want to design clothing, you can use Clo 3D, you have all the resources you need, computers, instructors, stuff like that, to teach you like really what you want to figure out. You know, it's not really too much sifting you have to do. The information is pretty straightforward. You can sign up and get activated in the community. It's a pretty good place to just learn about the things that you've been hearing about and meet the people that are kind of behind some of the events too. And we also do a yearly program. It's a summer internship program for
cool.
the youth that want to learn more about how to create a fashion brand, what that means with merchandise, design, production, all of that.
Nice.
So they kind of cover the whole scope of it, and then you open up your own pop-up shop and sell your actual products.
Oh, that's awesome.
Did you both go through like all of those different steps?
Yeah, so I went through the first program. I was on the design team. I ended up doing a lot of the design for the first cohort of kids. And then the second group of kids, I kind of like laid back and I was like, okay, like I'll let them like really figure out what they want to do. And if they need me, I'll be there. But yeah.
Nice.
And then, of course, that's where I come in. I'm the third cohort. And I guess I was kind of put in a similar situation, like Josh, where I ended up like kind of touching every department, like merchandising, visual merchandising, design, production, all that stuff. I kind of helped design most of the collection. And I think that also kind of helped me understand the fashion industry and just creating a brand and all that stuff like that for sure. The whole, like, I'm really blessed to like even be a part of CFA, honestly. I feel like CFA has definitely been a program that's helped me become more comfortable being around different creatives. Because, like, again, I'm still all new to this. Everything is still new. Meeting people like Michelle, you know, even meeting like other creatives like Josh is just all still new to me. And so I'm still trying to take this all in. I'm still trying to learn and try to get better and improve my craft because, like, again, I'm young. And so I just want to keep growing, get better, you know, get to that stage where I want to be. And
I'm shocked that there were more creatives considering what Michelle was saying earlier, that it's the third largest fashion like
Hub, yeah.
third largest fashion hub. So like kids aren't going to school dressed nice. It's not crazy like that.
I feel like it's not how do I say this? I don't think it's a standard.
You don't have to name anyone. I'm just you know.
Like, you know, when you go to certain places, like, okay, I feel like it's a standard to dress a certain way.
Yeah.
I don't think we really have that. I feel like you have a lot of freedom to,
Mhm.
you know, be comfortable if you want to, or, you know, just run to the grocery store real quick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's more so about people wearing what you're wearing, but it's more of just like being yourself. I feel like that's what stands out the most. Just individualistic people. You can really tell based on what they're picking up. Because there's really, like, there's some stores, but it's pretty general, you know, Zara,
Okay.
stuff like that, H&M. So when you see something that really stands out, you're like, okay, like,
Gotcha.
I can understand why I could connect with this person.
So that's like your reaction to kids at school and their fashion. It's not. You don't need to say names or anything. I just.
And that also, this is like, I guess, my perspective, because again, I just now started, I guess, connecting more to the Columbus, downtown Columbus and stuff like that. That's pretty much the creative area of Columbus. So where I'm from, like, I like maybe the outskirts of Columbus pretty much. Not, like I said, not a lot of kids like me. So, and I've always been a little bit more different, even like when I was doing other things, I guess pulling myself away from just art and creative stuff. Even like I used to play basketball. I was kind of different. All the basketball players would wear sweatpants and all that stuff, Crocs to school. I would be the one kid, like, I would try to put something on to school every day or every other day. And then I would, like, low-key kind of get judged for it at school. Because, like, oh, why are you tryharding at school, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, if
like,
anything, I feel like we were probably the outliers.
Yeah, like, I'm just like, bro, I like what I like. Like, bro, like, I don't know what to tell you. I like art, I like fashion, like, and I've always been, like, an open-minded person, like, and a very introspective person, and, like, being around that environment is, like, it's not really welcoming. It's more, like, that I kind of suppressed that side of myself. And so, again, like I said, I'm now transitioning into a better space where I can be myself and I can express the way how I feel. And so I'm literally learning how to express myself and my creative self with these new people, and it's a good thing. Like I said, I'm just gonna keep getting better and grow as I learn from all these people. So yeah.
Thank you both so much. I like halfway through, like I was so in awe of your guys' age in the beginning, and then I was like, oh, I'm just talking to people older than me. I was like, you guys are both so well spoken, and I'm really excited to see what's in store for you both. We've added your socials into the chat for the YouTube, and then everyone here is gonna know you guys by the end of the event. So
Sure, check us out.
Yeah, for sure.
to close out, we just have a couple minutes, but Michelle, I wanted to ask you about Family Drive and thoughts on this year and what you might have in store for Uprisers or Family Drive.
Yeah, I mean, we're already talking to Yogi about potentially bringing Family Drive out to
Columbus. Yeah.
Columbus. So it's trying to expand cities. My dream would be to do this quarterly.
Wow.
Right? Maybe at the end of the year is like the big hurrah, but being able to do this more consistently. I know PacSun is really dedicated to continue supporting this, and obviously without PacSun support, we couldn't give back to the organization, right? So they've handled all the production for you guys, and obviously it's your talent that is being put onto this shirt, but 100% is going back to #lunchbag, and it's feeding 4,500 people. Plus, all of our donations are going to help sustain their org for the rest of the year, or the next year. And so I think we're doing so much good in one day, and I think the impact is for the long run. So
It's really, it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I'm still trying to take this opportunity in, because like 2 weeks or like maybe like 2 months ago, I was not even thinking about, or like I would not even comprehend like what, and so like getting this opportunity is like, I get to use my talent and share it and help people. That's like kind of the similar thing what I want to do with my brand. I want to help people kind of in a similar situation with me be more, I would say I want to help people be more comfortable with themselves, creatively wise, and just like, yeah, bro. Like honestly, I don't even know what to say, bro. At this point, bro, I really just appreciate the opportunity because, like, again, I'm still taking it all in. I'm in California.
Yeah.
I'm
they,
a
have
kid,
they have a big
bro,
shoot
like-
Oh, really?
tomorrow.
That's what I'm
They're,
saying, like,
you know,
I-
planning
you
it
know,
remotely.
It's
awesome.
crazy.
Yeah. So.
And again, like, this is just a shout out, but I just want to shout out my parents for just even letting me come here. Honestly, because I know my mom is very protective over me and stuff like that. But
She's like, if they don't answer my text, I'm
Yeah.
coming after you. And I'm like,
Well,
okay.
she's watching. She knows they're alive and well.
Hey, Mom.
hey, but yeah, I just want to thank my parents because also they also are a big part of who I am right now. I would say out of everyone, they've always been supportive over my art stuff, and I guess they were the first ones to notice it. And I know my mom used to buy a lot of every Christmas, every birthday, always buy me art supplies and all that stuff. So that definitely fueled my passion for it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Any other closing thoughts?
No.
All right.
No.
Well, thank you guys for being the last interview for our live podcast. This is the first live stream we've ever done, so it's really cool. Close out with such great guests. Michelle, thanks for having Changing Tides be a part of this. Thanks to everyone that listened, but I think that about wraps it up, and you guys will be able to enjoy just the rest of everything that's going on at Family Drive.
And thanks, Matt, for all that you do year
Thank
round
you.
around
Thank
mental
you for
health.
Thanks, guys.
It's so important.
Got
So.
it. Well,
Thank
everyone,
you, Michelle.
Yeah.
UPRISERS, Paxson, Columbus Fashion Alliance, all that. Thank you.
Everybody.
Yeah. All right. We're going to close out. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.